And welcome everybody to our Jamstack React workshop today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Just sit back and relax for a moment. We're gonna kind of pump some tunes in, get our energy going for this 3-hour workshop, and we're gonna jam. Let's do it. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that nice video. How many of you seen a database video before? But now you have. So with that, hello and welcome everybody. I am David Jones Gilardi, joined today by Cédrick Lunven and Chris Wilhite. Hello, Cédrick.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cédrick Lunven, and I'm leading the advocate team here at DataStax. Happy to be there with you for 3 hours, and boom, this is my shift on the right. Thank you, David.
Yeah, you know, Cédrick just magically moved over there. I don't know exactly what happened.
That's kind of crazy. Thank you.
It is kind of crazy. No problem. Yeah. So you're now
needed
next
to be closer
to
to me. It's fine.
Yeah. I hope you guys are okay being a little closer together now. All righty. So welcome everybody, and we really appreciate you joining us today for our Jamstack and React with Astra workshop. So first things first. If you notice, please, in the session itself, if you look at the currently displayed question, you'll see that there is a message there. If you want to engage in chat with us for the workshop, then go to the link that you see there. It's that bit.ly link, Cassandra-workshop. Join us in the Discord. Now, you can ask questions on in the interface in Cvent. We're going to be watching there. So if you just want to use it that way, totally cool. We're going to watch your questions. We already saw that some of you already started asking questions, so that's wonderful. The difference, though, is in Discord, we're going to be dropping links, right? So as we go through the material here, as we get through all the content, we're going to be dropping links for you in the Discord. So that's really the place that you want to go. Also, once this event is done, if you're in the Discord server with us in our channel, the Fellowship of the Cassandra Rings channel, server, I should say, then that will persist, right? You'll actually be added on to a group of another about 7,000 people that we've had on previous workshops, part of the Cassandra and other communities, where you can ask us questions at any time after the event, right? So we really encourage you to drop into the Discord, especially if you want to be able to interact with us more. Okay, let's see. And I don't know if Cédrick or Chris, if you had anything else you wanted to add to that before I move on.
No, because I can see all the questions coming. I can approve or decline on the Cvent tool, but I do have a hard time to answer you there. So please use the Discord, and I will be there to get your question and ask all the questions to David all the way.
And by the way, I do see a question that we have not posted yet that is asking about advantages of Jamstack's decoupling of the front end, back end, and such. I think that's something we can try to answer as we get into the content. So I just wanted to acknowledge that that was there. Okay, so with that, the next thing then is, this is a workshop. We're going to be doing some hands-on stuff. That means you need a GitHub repo, because that's where we're doing all of our work from. So I'm going to drop that in the Discord. I think, Cédrick, you also have it in the Cvent as well. There you go. So if you would follow us over to GitHub, DataStax Academy/BattleStacks.
Yes.
And let's go ahead and find that one. I'm going to
share
display
that link on the Discord.
Okay. And I just displayed it there in the event as well. You should see the link to the GitHub. Oh, yeah, that's right. Thanks for pointing that out, Japs. Japs in Discord did mention, I forgot to mention that we are now on the grid. So we have all been converted to our digital selves.
Yes. See,
yeah, we don't exist in the analog universe anymore.
Don't we? No. We are real person with real faces. Let me prove that. 1 second.
Oh, wait, is Cédric going to prove? Oh, there's
Yeah,
Cédric.
this is the real me, everyone.
Cédric's real.
Back
but the rest of us were not real. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. That's just me doing the 3 persona.
All right. All right. So here, and I'm going to drop the GitHub link again in Discord. I think I saw Cédric do that as well before.
I did.
Okay, excellent. All righty. So then first thing, or I said first thing. The third thing actually is on your phones, if you would, do this with us. You could do it on your phones or in your browser, totally up to you. Go to menti.com. We'll drop this for you as well. And the code is up here at the top. You should see 9902077. And what we're going to use this for today, if you have not been with us before in one of these workshops, we use Menti for 2 things, right? One is in the beginning, we're going to ask you some questions. We want to get to know you a little bit better because it actually helps us tailor what we're going to say and how we're going to present things to you today. The second part of it is going to be as we go through the exercises, we're going to have a mechanism in there so you can let us know when you're done with a particular exercise and all that. So, and then lastly, we're going to have a quiz. Now for the quiz, you got to, the quiz, whoever wins that, the top 3 winners get swag, right? So you get some cool swag. So make sure that you stay in the Menti. So go to the Menti again. It's menti.com. I see Cédric dropped it, menti.com. Again, code 9. Oh, go ahead.
No, I dropped the link wherever I can. It's also part of the README. I mean, everything is on the README. So once you landed on the README, if you go to housekeeping, you get all the info here. How to connect to the Discord, how to connect to the Menti. You do have the photo of our real selves.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we are here. We are actually real. And if you want, you could actually scan this QR code. It will also bring you there. But again, go to menti.com 9902077. And let me see how many folks I have in there. Okay, we've got 29 so far. Now, I know that we have a lot more folks. Give us a heart. Give us some love. Let us know that you're there. Yeah, exactly.
David,
I see some more coming in.
David, try to hit the I button. The I, try.
The I button?
Yeah, I mean, try the I. Yeah. Hey.
How?
Magic.
I didn't know that.
I know you didn't.
That's new. That's awesome. All righty. All right. So
with that, you can totally know where to go and what is the code.
Excellent. All right. Wonderful. So we'll give you just a moment to get to the Menti again, because we're going to be doing a lot of the, the interaction stuff when we go through the event. The Menti is going to really allow us to kind of know where you all are with everything. So it's really important that you're in there. Okay. And Giuseppe, I do see a question. Maybe Audra, can you help answer this in the Discord? Is the session going to be available online afterwards in case we missed something? Wonderful. All right. So let me come back and don't forget to give us some love. Good. I see some love coming in. Wonderful. Okay. So with that, I am going to start into the first question. So like I said, we're going to ask you some questions, get to know you a little bit better. Which JavaScript developer are you? Oh, Japs, you're going to find out what Stargate is today. Yeah, you will find out what you're going to use Stargate, actually. Oh,
David, I see that you monitoring the Discord pretty well. Okay.
Well, just for the moment, right? Yeah. This part's not so bad, right?
So for folks who don't know JavaScript, we provide you the maximum of insight, including the solution in the end. But you really have to do some JavaScript today. So fasten your seatbelt. You will be good.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're not familiar with JavaScript, I hope we've built this in such a way where it's going to be okay, and you'll know exactly what you need to do. So always, by all means, give us the feedback if you don't. All right, good. So thank you for answering that. Let's go on to the next one. What is your experience with React and Redux? Oh, we have a guru on. Uh-oh. That's going to be the person who asked the hard questions. Right?
No. The guru is just standing right on my left side.
Oh, that is true. We brought one of our own gurus. So
yeah, our own.
I see your guru, and we're raising you a guru. That's right. Oh, so we have a couple never heard about it. Okay, so some folks know what it is but never used it. Well, you're going to use it today, so woohoo! And I can develop with React. Great. All right.
Great.
Going on to the next one. What is your experience with Jamstack? I'm so curious about this one.
Yes. We can say that it's quite new. You have heard Matt Billman talking about the Jamstack and Netlify this morning. So let's see.
Oh, wow. A lot has never heard about it. Well, that's cool. So hopefully now throughout the event, you should have listened to some folks that have explained some, but we're going to get more into it. And you're actually going to use Jamstack today. So again, we have another set who know what it is, but they've never used it. And I use it all the time. Oh, I'm curious. I'm so curious. All right, cool. All right, excellent. Thank you all so much. And that's it for those questions. Now leave the Menti window open. We're going to come back to it, right? And we're going to come back to it and do the rest of our stuff later. Okay, so just kind of taking a look at the flow and how we're going to do things today, right? Hopefully you have the GitHub repo. If you don't, I'm just going to go ahead and just drop it down in Discord yet again.
Yes.
There we go. Yes, it is also a TV show for Stargate. I saw that question come in. So what we're going to do is, and you can follow along here in the GitHub repo as well. But we're gonna first each section is gonna have like a concept. We're gonna just explain something, and then we're gonna do something with it, right? So we're gonna kind of go back and forth between talking about something for a moment, and then we're gonna get our hands dirty and do some exercises. You'll find that now when you start the way that we've set this all up, especially for those of you using Gitpod, when we get to the IDE section, you're already gonna start off in master. Honestly, in either way, if you do it locally or if you're doing GitHub, you'll start off in master. We'll branch off from there. We're just letting you know that if you did want to look at the individual code for the individual sections, you can. You'll find in each of the sections for the exercises, and I will point this out to you, we have given you the full code, right? So if you have a case where you get stuck or something, you always have the code that you can implement. Okay. We will, yes, Rohinton, we will clone it. Don't go there yet.
Yeah, that's really
we'll give you all the instruction and everything you need. But yes, you're going to clone the repo. Now, if you're doing it up on Gitpod, maybe not. But if you're doing it locally in your own IDE, yes, you're going to clone it locally.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. All right. So with that, why don't we
play the game?
The Jamstack. Now, yeah, we should play the game, shouldn't we? We should really play the game.
Let's play the game. You know,
let's talk about what we're actually doing, right? Yes. What are we doing?
I mean, we are building a game.
That is true. Here, we actually have some text on that. You know, it's so funny. Boop. Here we go. Here we go. Yes, yes. I guess I could have pointed this part out right here. So DataStax is an online party game, right? That you can enjoy with your friends. And it is implemented as Jamstack. It uses Stargate, which you're going to find out about today for those who are asking. Netlify, Astra, all the stuff, all those links that you see there. There are things that we're going to work with today. You're going to learn about today, and you're going to create an app and deploy an app using all of this stuff. Chris, is there anything that you want to say in particular about DataStax that you would like our attendees to know? Putting you on the spot.
Sure. I think just maybe an overview of how it works and the rules. So it's basically very similar to Cards Against Humanity or any number of the Jackbox games where players join and they all look at the same lobby screen. So it could be a TV in your house, or if you're in an online presentation like this, and then they join a game from their phone and then watch the screen for prompts. So in this game, we'll be answering questions, and then someone votes on the answers that they like the best, and then those points are tallied, and someone wins. And we'll basically be implementing one part of the game. Like we'll basically be doing the part that lets you start a new game, and it goes all the way back to the database. So you get a full slice of what's going on.
Yeah, and to that point, in the repo, even though, as Chris said, even though we're only going to be working with one part of the game, in the repo, you will see a branch. We're not going to work with it just yet. You're going to see a branch called Full Game. That is the full implementation. So if you feel so inclined, once we're done, feel free to go ahead and mess with that and deploy it and such. But with that, we will get into the actual game. And here we go. I've got this set up. So why don't we start a new game? Cédrick and Chris, are you ready?
I am ready to participate.
All right, let's do it. Start a new game. And I'm going to put, I am Yanni. Now, the purpose of a game like this, at least as I think, it's who can be the funniest or like most outlandish. Is what Cédrick Avatar.
Yeah,
right.
It's not the real me.
Chris, you're gonna. I just have to wait for Chris. There we go. There's Chris. All right, so we can start the game now. Now, by the way, my box is very laggy right now. I have like a million things running. That's why you see slight pauses here. Fourth wall. All right, so it's going to count down. It's going to give us, you're going to see some on the right-hand side. You'll see it give me some questions. Now, Chris and Cédric are also going to get some questions. So this is like if we were all playing, right? Let's see.
Vote for me, David. I found a pretty funny answer for the first question.
I hope you did something funny.
I don't have the same question as you. That's the whole purpose.
Pretty boring, so.
Oh, look at our answers. Those were,
oh, geez.
We gave kind of lame answers. I'm so sorry. Is this one a little bit better? Prepare for battle stacks.
Yeah,
let's prepare for drinking. We should prepare for drinking. All right, so, oh, here we go. Oh, that's funny.
No. No, you don't pick wine. Jeez, I'm sign out.
All right, so there, I hope you get like the general idea, right? So what happened here is, now, mind you, there's just 3 of us in here. Imagine if you had a lot more players, or if you've ever played a game like that before. And what would happen is everyone gets asked a set of questions, you give your answers, and then the voting happens. And then the one with the most points right at the end of the voting is the funniest. Now, those weren't very funny. Should we just do another round to be like, I felt like we were funnier when we did this before. I don't know. I'm doing another round just because. Now, if it's forced funny, it's not gonna be funny at all. But just to, again, give the feel of it. So here we're gonna, I created a new game. They'll pop in with that code. There we go. There they are.
Yeah, just for you to feel what the game looked like, because later on we will implement the first part of the game, which is creating a new game in the lobby.
Oh, my poor box is lagging.
Yeah. We'll make it.
Don't ignore what I'm doing right now. Just totally ignore that. Don't even notice this at all. I realized I should have done that a little differently. So here, let me get out of here. Whoop.
That's all right. I mean, I think if your machine's a little bogged down, it may just not work as you expect. So
yeah, here, I'll just do one more.
Oh,
this is what happens when you're running all this this video stuff at the same time.
All right, so
I'll try one more time. Yeah, because usually it doesn't take that long to join the game.
Yeah, now you're waiting for me.
Here we go. Yep, just waiting for you, Cédric.
I try my best.
Are you putting something funny? I hope you're putting something. There we go. Oh, it's the real Cédric. It's the real Cédric. All right, let's see if we can do better on these questions this time around. And hopefully, though, again, you're getting the feel of this, that you have, views that are being rendered. We're actually gonna create this, right? We have game state, we have a data layer in the play. This has actually been deployed to Netlify, which we're gonna do in our real app. All this kind of stuff, right, for an app like this. Let's see.
Ooh.
What, that title? Semicolon? Is that this thing?
Yeah, that's a semicolon. So for any of you who've ever played like
maybe you can try space. It would have worked.
Yeah, that could have worked potentially. Oh yeah, zombie apocalypse is probably what's going to happen.
Yeah, probably.
It's probably what's going to happen.
What do we miss in 2020 except the zombie apocalypse?
Yes, Japs. Yeah, the memes. Oh yeah. Oh my. Oh my God. Agent Orange contested, mother approved. All right. So I think at this point now, I'm
Cool.
just waiting for another vote to come in. Right. So I think you get the idea. Oh, it looks like Chris won at this time. Woohoo. So there you go. Right now, there was just 3 of us in there. You could have a lot more folks in there. But again, here is the game that we are going to implement. And with that, why don't we go ahead and come back here? And how about we get in a Jamstack? What do you think, Cédric?
Yes, let's go right into it. I saw a lot of beginners and people that don't know what is a Jamstack, and I guess it's pretty new, so let's go through it. So if you go to the first schema, the Jamstack is a new standard architecture for the web, okay? You might think it's a set of tools, frameworks, but this is first and foremost a new logical architecture. JAM, so J stands for JavaScript, no surprise, A for API, and M for markup. All these 3 are powered by tools called Static Page Generator and CDN, which I explain in a minute. So first, the JavaScript. With JavaScript, here we are talking about client-side JavaScript, something running in your browser. It would be any popular framework like Angular, Vue, React, or even Vanilla.js. I don't want to run into a framework comparison, which could take an hour already.
Yeah, right.
But I put you some link at the bottom of this page for reference if you want to go that route, some comparison from late 2020. For today, we picked React, which is currently the most in use. That's for the JavaScript. Then about the API. API here refers to web API, the way for application to retrieve the data. Again, multiple options available. And the most known are no doubt REST and GraphQL. We could have used any of those 2 because the database we will use today, Astra, expose an API through Stargate, both REST API and GraphQL API. Today, we picked the REST because we want to illustrate the document serverless API, which is quite new on top of Cassandra, right? Last but not least is the markup. The markup refers to the text content in the web page. Description, paragraph, definitions. As a developer, you create the skeleton, the templates of your web page, and you can delegate the content redaction to a third person, someone who can use friendly languages like Markdown, ASCII Doctor, but someone that don't know how to code. So you split the code and the content. And now come the big boy, the static page generator. So the static page generator will use the code and the content as input to build and render the target website. During the process, anything that can be optimized will be image size, lazy loading, prefetching resources, and also the code will be transformed to work in most browsers. Because in the end, this is where the code will run, right? The building operation is done before any access to the website, and this is why we call it pre-rendering. We can also talk about decoupling, because you are decoupling code from content, and you are decoupling code from data, because now data is retrieved through API. Again, I put some link here to compare famous generators. So the most famous is no doubt Gatsby, I think, Gatsby and Next.js. And on the Gatsby website, you can find Gatsby against this generator, Gatsby against this generator, with tons of features. And I feel that it's a fair comparison. Also, this kind of generator are a way to provide what we call headless CMS. Okay, with generator like Jekyll or Hugo, you will transform a GitHub repo in a real website. Today, for the workshop, no surprise, we will use a page generator, including in the Netlify platform. All right. Okay, last piece in the schema I just showed you before on the top is the CDN. The CDN stands for Content Delivery Network. And if I read the definition here, this is a geographically distributed group of servers which work together to provide fast delivery of internet content. Okay, that's the definition. Now, look at the picture. You understand immediately that if the content you need to download is pretty close to you, the latency is reduced and the page loads faster. It's all about the performance, which led us to the following architecture below, as expressed by Matt Billman, CEO of Netlify, earlier this morning. So David, if you can show us the logical architecture below. Boom, here it is, before and after. So before, it used to be called service client server, okay? Because the client issue a request that will come through web and app servers and the database. But now we can talk about client services. The code is served by a CDN, so it will be downloaded very fast, rendered very fast. It runs in your browser. And when you need data, you simply invoke API on microservice. And so if I put the three main principles, one after the other, the first is the pre-rendering, okay? At build time, you optimize everything that you can. Second is decoupling, and I told you we decouple content and data, and we decouple code and content. And the last piece is move to CDN, because if your content is on CDN, everybody can access it very, very quickly, okay? All about performance and decoupling. But it's not the only reason why the Jamstack is cool. So one reason is also about security. Do you remember wp-admin.php for a WordPress website? I do, you know. Anyone can access that and find the admin password, you're in trouble. It's kind of a huge backdoor opened by WordPress itself. I know you can remove it, set up the tool in a way that nobody could access, but that's still kind of a pitfall. Now, if the Jamstack files you download from the CDN are static files, and there is no server to attack, you simply download HTML and JS. And this is read-only hosting. There is nothing to hack. And the data is retrieved through API, of course. So you may want to attack the API, but those API are protected, authenticated, authorized with throttling monitoring, DDoS protection with kind of API gateway, and all the technology to prevent any attack against API. So speaking of security, pretty safe. About the performance, you got the ID. Everything is optimized. Image size, page loading, time to load the content, and the result is simply a faster website. And what you see there, it's not an issue with the image, okay? That's me showing
that one threw me off the first time too when I saw that. I was like, oh, what's going on?
That's just showing that you, as a user, is not patient. That means I probably bet that you already refreshed the page 3 times because you are not patient, right? So yeah, with Jamstack, content is small, close to you with CDN, everything has been optimized at build time. Next is maintainability. So you can go and read through this little cartoon. This boss may be your boss. In any case, it's your fault. Either you use the budget to protect, maintain, or you don't use, and if there is any trouble, that's also your fault. With the Jamstack, everything is done at build time. Please don't forget about development best practices. When you build something, provide some test, unit test, integration test. Today we will use test. Okay, that's really how you should develop. And so if you need to update something, you will simply drop or override everything that exists. You will rebuild, repackage, redeploy. It's not really maintenance. It's remove and replace. And it's automate. So that's pretty easy to provide new version and to maintain the overall things. That's just static file. Okay, portability. I saw you draw that. Works on my machine. I love these pictures. Always good. So now, with the Jamstack, the idea is portability to the host. Okay, these HTML files can be hosted wherever you want. Any CDN is fit the hosting of these static files, plain old and easy to host, but also the portability to run, because the generated code is optimized to run on modern browsers. No name. No, I won't quote any old browser we all remember, we all struggle with. Okay, it should be a fun event, so let's keep moving. Last and not least is the developer experience. Okay, and for this one, let us show you today how cool it is, the Jamstack. I promise you, in less than 15 minutes from now, you will have your application running with the Jamstack. Okay, so and from that first point, we will add stuff step by step. And to do so, well, we will use Netlify. So before starting, I promise this is the last piece of instruction or text. You can see that I'm not reading on screen. I simply focused on the pictures. And so this morning, you saw Matt Billman, CEO of Netlify, explaining you his vision about what the web development should be in the coming years. And is running Netlify. So look at the schema. Netlify is hooked to your code and content. And with a continuous integration, continuous delivery, CI/CD process, each time you will update your code, you will trigger a build, a package, and everything that has been generated will be pushed to CDN, but here it's called a performance static frontend. Okay, that's the CDN, all right? We will run into more detail and more features of Netlify in a couple of steps, but for now, let's make it simple. This is something that hooks to your code, build stuff, puts that in production, and you can access it, okay? We want you to start as soon as possible. So what about today? All right, just enough information for you to start. So this is the like pictures, I promise. So you do have your code in GitHub. You can edit the code and work with the code as you wish. You can use your local IDE, or you can use a cloud-based IDE named Gitpod. We will give you the link, one click, and something very, very similar to VS Code will pop up in your browser, and you will be able to work against that code. Okay. Each time you commit this code on the master, the Netlify build will trigger. You will run the unit test and package some stuff and push that into production, and you will have your website available on Netlify. Okay, and going through the step, we will add more components to be able to interact with the database, DataStax Astra and all its components. Okay, but enough for now. No time to waste. Let's code. And so, David, back to you.
All right. Now, we do have a question that I think is really relevant to what everything you just talked about over there in the event. Let me go ahead and display it. Boom. All right. So the question is, what do you think is the biggest advantage of Jamstack's decoupling of the front and back end versus a more domain-driven modularization? And honestly, I'll give this a first crack, and I'm sure that Chris and Cédric are going to have something to say about it. But if you take a look at this diagram that Cédric was talking about before, and I was actually going to make a joke about this, but Cédric had a nice flow and I didn't want to interrupt him. How many of you here, if you want to give us like a thumbs up or a wave or something in Discord, how many of you here have been coding something, right? But then in order to get it out, not just to production, even in test development, staging, whatever, right? You have to go through, whether it's IT, another group, there's, the whole idea of like having a single push button kind of release CI/CD pipeline or something like that. It takes a lot of effort to build, right? So I think one of the biggest, at least to me, one of the biggest benefits of something like Jamstack compared to the traditional ways that we used to do things is it is significantly simpler to actually not just get your production, your app out to production, but also have it go through a full CI/CD pipeline. And the cool thing here, and we're going to do this today, is you can do this all with front end full stack code. So, I come from I've done plenty of front-end UI stuff, but I also I was mainly a back-end developer, someone who would work with the database and such. So I would be the other person, right, that the front-end person would work with. But now all of the keys to the kingdom are essentially going into the front-end developer's hands and giving them the ability to write their code, write their app, and essentially kind of forego what was the traditional back-end way, the traditional way of interacting with databases and the need for all of that infrastructure and stuff. So I don't know, Chris and Cédric, do you have something else you want to add to that?
No, I think you covered well. So splitting stuff in a microservice or domain-driven module is really putting both rendering UI and the backend in the same module you want to scale. Whereas here, we really be as fast as possible at the UI side, optimize CDN and everything, and get the data with asynchronous call. So the focus is really UI as fast as possible. And even in Netlify, you can do some module. You would have a dedicated small app per module. I think you can compose both.
Yeah. And by the way, there's a question in Discord from Magic Crafter. Now, Chris is responding to it right now. But yeah, he's going to answer it there. The question was, where are the secret tokens, API keys, and other sensitive data stored in the SSG site, Netlify CDN Edge? And Chris is answering those. The tokens are in the Lambdas, never in the client. I know some of those, we're actually going to store some secret keys and such in
true.
GitHub and Netlify. You'll see that today.
Part of the practice is really store secret as on variable inside the Netlify website. So
yes,
nothing go through the wire.
Yes, and a quick one here, and then I'll move on so we can actually get to what we're doing. Is how did you make those cool looking avatars? It is Cédric found this. It's actually called Lumi AI. It's really cool, actually. So Lumi AI, you can go download that and create your own. It's a cool process. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and get into the first exercise. So if you're following along in the GitHub repo, you're going to see at the very bottom, you'll notice we have this setup, and every one of these at the very bottom will tell you, hey, go to the next section. It's going to be set up and deploy your first app. That should bring you to what you see up here, this README step 0, right? So this is our Bootstrap section. So what we're going to do here is, one, we're going to fork the DataStax repo, because you need your own repo. You're actually you're gonna deploy your own production app. You're gonna write with your own code and such. So you need to have your own repo for that. So we're gonna give you a moment to, by the way, I'm just giving you a quick overview. I'm gonna do this in every one of these sections. All the instructions are here for you, right? So I'm going to give you a quick overview, and then we're going to give you some time and let you get into it. So you're going to first fork the repo. So you're working out of your own GitHub repository. Then you're going to set up your Netlify account and actually push the base app out to production right away. We're just going to go ahead and get it going just from just like the very basic capability. And then you're going to be set up to move forward. So with that, let me go ahead and give everybody a little time. So we're going to get 15 minutes. I'm going to give you 15 minutes to go ahead and do this. Now, here's how it's going to work. If you go back over to Menti, here we go. And you should see that you get like a little thumbs up deal that pops up. Exactly. Now
that's me hitting the thumbs up.
Oh, that's you doing it. Okay, good, Cédric. Okay, so don't hit the thumbs up yet. Don't hit it yet. What we want you to do is, once you're done with this section, give us a thumbs up to let us know that you're done. So I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. There you go. You got 15 minutes. And if we get done earlier, wonderful. Wow, somebody already finished. That's amazingly fast. That's amazingly fast. All right, so yes, go ahead and start into the section. Oh, we have more people finishing so fast. If you feel very eager to give us a thumbs up, I think that's wonderful. But don't forget, we are looking to know that you're actually done with this section. So we want to go to step 0. I'm going to go ahead and put that here in the Discord.
So how many live attendees do we have, and how many thumbs up do we expect until we move on?
We've got I can ask Audra. Let's see. What do we have? I think we have like 193. So once folks are done, I expect a lot more than 7.
Yep.
There you go. All right. So like I said, we'll give you 15 minutes now. I'm actually going to do some of this stuff as well along with you, but I'm going to be quiet while I do it. You may or may not want to watch the screen. Just go ahead and follow the instructions here on your own. If you need any help at all, please let us know in the Discord.
Yes, and so this is step 00 markdown. So this is, let me copy the link on Discord just to be sure. And this one is very important to be able to do the next steps.
Yeah, that's right. If you don't do this step, you can listen along all you want.
Yes.
But you're going to have to do this.
Nice music.
You like it? Is it chill? Is it nice?
Yeah, chilling. Let me do the dance. Boom, 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 boom. And now everybody freak out Lumi and want the Lumi AI as well.
Yeah, that's great.
While that's going, maybe I can answer a couple of the questions.
Yeah, go for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, good.
So there's a question about the tool with the avatars. It's called Lumi.ai, and it just runs as a camera add-on. And you pick an avatar and makes the mouth move. And then there's a next question about the web architecture and how trust is delegated to services and assumed. Is there any security oversight? So typically speaking, everybody's security profile is different, but let's say, it's a typical web application where you want to distribute your client at the edge and you're okay with, you don't need to protect any part of the actual client that gets delivered to the user, meaning like if they had the JavaScript and HTML and CSS, that's no problem. Where your security boundary lives is at the service level, right? So the trust isn't assumed. What happens is that your client needs to ask for some kind of token from some service. Typically, it's going to be a JWT from an authentication service. And all your other services know how to validate that JWT and that it came from the service that they care about. So once your client has a token from that service, it can then make requests to your other services behind it. So it's almost like the client becomes a separate service. If you have a big service topology, it becomes another member of it, of your external facing services, not things you would have internally. But so it's more thinking about it that way instead of the application as in total a monolith from the client down to the database.
And Chris, was that the?
Hopefully that answers enough. That's pretty complicated.
Was that the question? I missed which one it was, but I think from hearing you talk, it was the question I see in the C event tool about trusted delegated services and assumed.
That's right. Okay. That's the one I'm talking to.
Let me go ahead and display and then bring it down because you answered that one.
Cool.
Okay.
And then any link for the repo and GitHub, I think I don't know where that is.
Yeah, here. The repo, yeah.
And I keep
are you pasting it in? Wonderful. Okay, thank you.
Okay. It might be. It's also under answered questions under the event. So at the very bottom, you'll see Cédric has pasted it.
Yes. So you do have two links, one for the Discord.
If I already have a free database in Astra, should I delete that before? If you don't need that database, I would go ahead and provision a new one. As we've rolled out Stargate, if it was built before Stargate 1.0, for example, then you may not have the most recent. However, if it's one you don't want to delete, that's fine.
Yeah, and just so you know, when we come to the section that we start working with the database, if you do in fact have an existing Astra database, I will explain to you what to do. It's really simple, but I will help you with that part. So you can leave it if you want, but as Chris said, if you don't have any love for the one that you're using, or something, you can feel free to delete it and just create a new.
Okay, so next question is, this technology is so new that we need to write procedures for people to guarantee software quality and security. And yeah, so it's not that it's new, right? It's all still the same technology. All web applications deliver HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to some client. That's always been the case. And they've been doing it via CDN for many years as well. This is really just moving away from a model where your rendering, where your rendering side happens in real, like basically when someone requests a page, it's rendered in real time from some application server like PHP or Rails, and then delivered to the client. This is just saying things are pre-computed and put on a CTM as static files. There's no dynamic part to them. And then there's so that they can be delivered to a client as quickly as possible. And then from there, they make REST API requests, GraphQL requests, authentication requests, whatever, to services that live behind you. So the security boundary really is your backend services. That's where you would focus that type of work. And code quality too. I mean, there's lots of tools in this ecosystem. We'll go through some of them today that cover code quality, mostly around testing, but there's a ton to help there. Let's see. Can you recommend any additional in-depth training? Nothing comes to mind off the top of my head other than just pursuing each of the tools that we talk about. So if you're looking to go more into Stargate, we have a lot of information on stargate.io. If you're looking more for Jamstack and Netlify, they have great resources on their website.
Yeah, and we've provided, if you take a look at the repo itself in the READMEs, each of these sections, like what Cédrick is doing when he's talking about it, he's not just reading the stuff that's there, and obviously he can't click on the links for you. You'll find that we have embedded, whether it's at the bottom of the READMEs or embedded along with the text, we've provided links to Jamstack, information, Netlify, all sorts of various other training and resources that you can take a look at. So those might help you get some more in-depth training as well.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, definitely refer to the READMEs. Those are great starting points. Also in this community, if you do the word awesome and then some product like awesome Gatsby JS, you get this giant, you'll find these giant READMEs on GitHub that have a ton of links and how to use stuff. So that's kind of like this trendy pattern that's popped up. Maybe not trendy, but it's popped up over the last few years. Lovementi.com, is it built on Jamstack? I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, I don't know either.
Maybe. If you use one, how do you decide which static site generator to use with your Jamstack project? So for static site generation, yeah, it depends on your project. I think if you're looking to get started quickly and have a blog or a kind of just brochureware, I would look at Gatsby. Has a lot of plugins, has a lot of themes and things like that. If you need more control and need a bit of a hybrid model, Next.js recently has really gotten a lot better with static site generation, like in a big way. So I would definitely check them out too. They're a little more low level, but you can really do some cool stuff with that framework. Does DataStax use Jamstack today for your website? So some of our properties are statically generated and distributed via CDN. All of our properties kind of use a services model, right? Where clients, well, maybe not all. I can't speak to everything because I don't see everything, but the most common way to develop web apps and apps like Astra that are built this way. I mean, generally you have a client and you have an API and and that's the boundary, right? So that's a pretty common pattern. This is a great platform for instruction. Which one is it, please? I believe this is called Cvent.
So hey, Frank, how you doing, by the way? Frank is one of our regulars. We know that name, Frank Demani. I don't know if I ever say your last name correct though, Frank. But yeah, there's Cvent that we are using for the event itself. I don't know if that's what you're referring to or if you're referring to some of the other pieces. So if you want follow up in Discord or whatever, I'm more than happy to talk more about that.
Okay. My company is thinking about migrating from WordPress to Gatsby. I read something about using WordPress as a headless CMS. So yes, there are a number of static site generators that will plug into the WordPress API that you can use. And that is a great transition to get you off of WordPress as quickly as possible. I'll use that as an intermediate step because you're still going to have some performance things. Maybe not. I mean, some WordPress installs are pretty good. But yes, Gatsby, I believe, will do that. There are also, in fact, I think Netlify might actually support this. They might have a plugin for it on their platform, if I remember correctly. So I'll check that out. If you, let's see what else we got. So each service will have its own Astra instance. So not for today. We're just going to talk to the same database. The one thing about Astra is it runs on Cassandra, which is meant to handle huge amounts of reads and writes. I mean, Astra is some customers on Astra push over 100,000 reads and writes per second. So it is, it's okay to use that a single service if you want. What else we got?
Before you answer the next one, I see some in Discord. Japs is asking, how do we know that Netlify deployment is successful? And Cédric says, it'll show deployed in green. So once everyone finishes up with the section, I am going to go through and give you a review and kind of show you all of that. So if you're not quite clear there, I'm going to show you where to look. Hopefully it's in the instructions, by the way. Let me know if it's not clear in the README so I can make that better for the future. But yes, I will bring you through all of that.
All right.
So good. No, go for it.
When would using markup option other than vanilla HTML be appropriate in Jamstack? So most Jamstack is going to use some kind of transpiler like React and Babel or Gatsby or Next.js, where you're writing a bunch of React or JavaScript, and it basically just spits out, standard static HTML and CSS and JavaScript. But there's no rule that you have to do it that way. I mean, you can just have straight up HTML and JavaScript and CSS and put them on a CDN. That's fine too. It's probably a lot higher effort because a lot of these generators are built to manage exactly this. Okay, when and where to use Astra or headless CMS? So you can use Astra as a headless CMS if you would like. You just build the headless CMS data model, and Astra is now your headless CMS. You communicate it with you can talk to it with GraphQL or REST API, and it will function that way. So I would say if you needed a headless CMS and the offerings in the market were not good enough, or there wasn't an open source version that you liked, then you might take something like Astra and build out your data model there and do it yourself. Hopefully that answers your question, Sergio.
Let's see. Yeah, to me, headless CMS is really, going through Markdown, so text format really. Whereas Astra is more what we call OLTP, so real data that you need to read, create, update, and less that text or anything. Whereas Anya this morning with the TikTok used to store all the text also in Astra, so that would work as well.
Okay. All right. I see one. Oh no, there's actually more questions that more popped in. Let's see. I'm looking for the ones that, those were answered. My bad. Okay. I think we already answered the static site generator one. Go ahead and display and stop that one.
Oh, that's weird. I mean, anyone could fork the repo. There is nothing special about it. It's public.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can totally. Yeah.
So there's two more questions I'll get before we end this round. So someone has just a basic question of what's Astra, what's Cassandra, and what's Stargate. So Astra is DataStax's database as a service product, right? It's called Astra. Now, inside of Astra, we run a number of things, right? We run Cassandra, we run DataStax Enterprise, which is our enterprise version of Cassandra. And then we also run Stargate, which serves as the API edge for talking to Cassandra. So when we say Astra, we just mean the Astra platform that we work with.
Yes.
Now,
and on that, I would have a pretty detailed schema coming from step 2, but yeah, you
okay.
Tell the most part.
Okay, cool. And
all
basically, right. And then how good are Netlify functions compared to Amplify or Firebase? Can you reproduce this app with other function providers? So yes, you can reproduce this app with any other function provider. Like I'm pretty sure would be 100% compatible with AWS Lambdas. For the most part, I mean, that's what you would change. You would change the function invocation hook to make it work on Firebase or make it work on, whichever function platform you choose. But the model, the idiom is all the same. So, and I don't, as far as a comparison between those those offerings, I would just check out. I'm sure Netlify has something on their website. I don't know off the top of my head.
All right, I would like to take one more because I see it from Bogdan, and I want to address this, and then we'll move on to the review of the section. Now, I'm 100% confused. So Astra is the DB, then what is Cassandra, and what is Stargate? Thanks. All right. So yes, DataStax Astra is a fully managed in the cloud implementation of Apache Cassandra, right? So when you spin up an Astra database, you're actually spinning up Apache Cassandra under the hood, right? So yes, Astra is effectively the DB. So that's where Cassandra and those two play. Stargate now is actually an abstraction, right? That is, Stargate is a set of APIs. We're actually going to talk about that here in a moment. So I'm going to hold off on that part. Hopefully that helps clear it up a little bit for you, Bogdan. Let us know if it doesn't. And then we will, we'll, try to dig a little bit more into detail there.
Yeah,
okay.
So let's go for the review.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, let's go for the review. It looks like I see lots of thumbs up. Wonderful. It sounds like that many of you have gotten through it. And Coney Codes, how do you change Netlify app name? If you're referring to the DNS, like the URL that you're going to use, there's actually an option in there.
Yeah,
I'll look at that here.
Like the domain, yeah.
Yeah, you can actually change it, but I think you said, Cédric, that's a paid feature. Is that right?
No. If you want to change to blah blah blah.netlify.app, as long as blah 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 is not reserved, you can use it.
Right.
But
and
now,
you see
if
this
you
here...
want to say myapp.com, then you need to use the registrar inside Netlify, and you need to pay for that.
Yeah, and you can set up a custom domain. So what we're doing here is we're just doing the basic site deployment right now. We're not actually going to set up a custom domain today. You can totally do that on your own if you'd like, and change that to something like Cédric just said, as blah, 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 or whatever. Okay, so looking at the section that we have here, now, hopefully all of you forked the repo into your own account. You can't really fork it back to ours. You're going to be working out of your repo, right? That's actually really key. You're going to find that I'm going to be probably a little bit annoying about this. And the reason being is, if you've ever worked with forked repos before, when you go to merge back and do PRs, you can kind of do those back to the parent repo. So we're going to ask that you don't do that. So we want to be working out of your repo. Hopefully you've gotten to that point. Now I went ahead and did this along with you where if you come into Netlify and you don't have any site set up, you will see a little button that says, if I scroll down here, yes, you'll see, once you've signed in, yeah, you'll see a button like this. It says new site from Git. What's going on here is actually really cool, because when you create that new site from Git and you allow Netlify to work with your repository, it's actually sending up the integration that is integrating between your GitHub repository and Netlify, which is going to make then, if you notice, you pushed an app into Netlify, and even though this is like a skeleton app, it barely has anything in it just yet, you'll notice that you actually have a fully fledged CI/CD pipeline. You can see all the logs and everything like that. If I go to my GitHub, actually I won't see the GitHub part yet because we haven't done that. But it's hooked it up. So the next part, when we actually go to push code, when we push that back, you're going to see where that integration really comes into play. Okay, so once you've deployed the site, again, you should see something that looks like this, right? This production master published. If I go to deploys there, if I click on that, then I'll get logs of the deploy. I can actually see everything that went on with the app. I can go to this preview deploy and actually look at the app. So what's really neat about this, and even though once it launches, the button doesn't do anything and everything, we haven't hooked it up yet. I didn't need any servers, right? I didn't actually need to deploy this internally. I didn't need to do anything there. I literally just took my repo and deployed that up to Netlify. And that's it. I now actually have an app that is available via a global CDN. Again, doesn't do much at the moment because we haven't hooked it up yet. We're going to do that here real soon. Okay, so let's see. Do we have any other questions that we need to address before we move on?
I mean, we need to buffer the question just to do the review, and then we will answer all the questions, but I think we need to move on a bit.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so then moving on, let's move on to the next section of what Netlify can do for you. All right, Mr. Cédric.
Yes, all right, so let's move on. So we already introduced you the features to build, package, and deploy an empty app eventually changing the domain name if you want. Those are labeled configure, build, and seed deploy. If you look at Netlify documentation, Netlify is a super complete platform, and we won't have time to cover all.
Right.
So I put there in number 2 some advanced feature that we won't use today, but I need you to know that first is monitor the traffic. You want to know where are users coming from and how much time your page are seen. Pretty common traffic monitoring. You can have some custom domain and HTTP website. You don't need an external registrar to get your domain. You can have mydomain.com, already included in Netlify. You do have a CLI. You will use the CLI without even notice when you will start the app locally, run some tests, but that's pretty powerful to interact with Netlify as is. You have API to secure and authenticate any endpoint that you would have put in Netlify. But no, those advanced features we won't be able to cover in the 3-hour slot. What we will cover, though, is, in my opinion, the coolest features among all.
Yeah.
And we will use that in a minute. So those are called Netlify function. Okay, you define a function in a JS file in a dedicated folder. You set up the folder in netlify.com to say, okay, everything that will be saved in this folder should be Netlify function. You commit, and boom, now the project will be deployed, and you do have a new endpoint to invoke your function. And it's a purely serverless function, and it's done by Netlify. Under the hood, it will start up a Lambda function, okay, because it's a Netlify platform. I saw a question about Azure function. So in Netlify, that's really AWS as far as I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you put the JS, you commit, and boom, now you do have your endpoint. And you see, you know what? This is exactly what you will do in next side. So David, back to you.
All righty. Okay, so, and yeah, as Cédric mentioned, just a couple things to point this out, right? You'll see that we're going to be working on the functions folder for our serverless functions. And then for the functions that we want to be serverless functions and deploy in Netlify that way, we just use this exports.handler. You're going to see this directly, right in the code we're going to do. What's really cool about that is that's it, honestly. You implement the function, and then when you deploy it, when you look at Netlify under the functions heading here, you'll see your functions that will show up. And you're going to find out in a moment that these aren't just for when you deploy up to Netlify. The Netlify libraries and stuff also work locally. So while you're working with your code locally before you've deployed it, you can access the functions the same exact way. It's totally seamless. That's actually, as we were doing this, I think this is one of the coolest features, as Cédric was kind of saying, like the serverless functions are really neat. They make it really awesome. So again, if you want to dig in a little bit deeper, provided over on Netlify, they actually had a nice document and a good video tutorial that really, I found some resources and put them in there that dig into this a little bit more. Okay, so with this next section, we are going to, and thank you for doing the thumbs up. That really helps us out and lets us know where all of you are. So we're going to do this next section with 25 minutes. Let me go ahead and set that real quick for you.
Okay.
And here it is. Yeah, so we'll see how long it actually takes everybody to do. We're not sure if we ran through a lot of timings. We'll see how it goes. But again, follow all of the instructions here. Now, in this case, just to kind of maybe hedge some of the questions that come up, by the time you're done with this section, this is going to be like a hello world serverless function that you're going to implement. You will deploy this, in fact, up into Netlify. So the end result here is that you can check your deployment for the functionality, the hello world endpoint, if you will. One other thing I'd like to point out is for the link here, for those of you using the Brave browser, Brave blocks the from refer capability here. So if you are using Brave, we suggest that maybe just for now, you use Chrome or some other browser if you're going to use Gitpod. We also highly recommend to use Gitpod. We have
Gitpod is
pre-configured it for you.
Gitpod is really like VS Code in the cloud. You don't have
to wonderful.
Anything npm install, everything. You can add extension is exactly like you would do with your beloved VS Code.
Yes, yes. So it's pre-configured and everything. You just click it. It's already, you don't have to do an npm install or anything, right? It's going to go and do all of it for you. So we do recommend that you do it that way, but you'll find that there is or are options for local as well. So if you want to use your local IDE, go for it. Just know that Gitpod has been configured for you.
Okay, so the first time you start Gitpod, it could take a while because it will download a Docker image of the full IDE. But when it started, you're good to go. It will also clone, use the sources because you use it inside of the GitHub repo. So you will see all the sources available. And we set up a pre-build step. So when you show up, npm install would have been already down for you. And what npm love to do is download internet, and it's done already for you.
Yeah.
And yes, it's showing up. And yeah, I think you will have to make your Gitpod with a bigger font later if you really want people to follow what you are doing.
I wonder if I have to go a little bigger than that. What do you think? Bigger.
Let's try this. Waiting for feedbacks coming from folks.
Yeah, true. Yeah, if you think that, again, you guys are focusing on what you're doing. I'm just going to do it along with you, and then we'll all come back to it. But at some point, if you're having a hard time reading any of the text or something on the screen, please let me know so I can fix it.
So I see some question regarding people do not able to open Gitpod. So if you are using your own repo and click on clone, you should be, okay to go. But if you hit the error, no referrer, I will give you the link to edit to make that work. Okay. So let me go over here. Try, and it's simply a matter of the link to provide to Gitpod. Okay, launch Gitpod.
Let's see. And I want to also point out, please, you'll notice that in each of these little sections, this command to execute, take a look at those. Make sure you keep your eye out for those. Some of these are going to be important, especially since we forked the repo. You'll notice that we're changing our default remote and such. There's little settings that are in there that you're going to want to make sure that you hit. So again, you should see any of the commands that you need to run. We've called them out with command to execute. So make sure you're running those.
And I copy in Discord what the URL should look like, and you need to substitute. But I put your GitHub sudo by your own GitHub sudo, and it will open Gitpod, even on Brave.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, even on Brave, it's funny. I love Brave actually, but it is very.
Yeah, but all these referrer stuff, I think it's using some cookie and might be blocked.
Yes.
And
yes.
We cannot know. We didn't know your pseudo in advance, so we were not able to provide the full link. And if you are using the button on our own repo, yeah, we'll try doing some pull requests to to the template, and that's not what we want. Okay, no pending question. What question do we have? Do you have a Docker file image for Cassandra? Okay, so again, Cassandra is really the database at core of everything that we are doing. Yes, for Cassandra, you do have multiple Docker image ready to go. And as a matter of fact, DataStax is really involved in making Cassandra very easy to use on Docker, and not only Docker, Kubernetes. So you can have a look at cassandra.io and see that we are providing everything you need to run Cassandra in Kubernetes very easily, including monitoring, backup, repairs, administrations, all is providing in Helm charts. So for people SRE and everything, we have you covered.
So we had a question about Azure functions too. So for this setup, we're just using Netlify functions. That's what's built in. For Azure, yeah, it's the same idea, right? I mean, they're all serverless functions. So you could run the same thing on Azure. It would be set up differently. You would need to use their system to run it. There's a good framework called the serverless framework, which is basically made to normalize across all the different function platforms and handle deploys for you. It's pretty handy.
Now, by the way, something I would like to point out, because this, since we've forked a repo, this is something that can trip you up. So be really, really careful here. This is also in the instructions. I try to really make it obvious, but even when we like went over this material ourselves, I may have done this myself a couple times. So don't feel so bad if you do it. But when you go to issue the pull request, ensure that you're not trying to issue the pull request against the parent repository of DataStax Academy. Make sure you're choosing this and choosing your repository. You have to do that. Unfortunately, it's just the way that GitHub works. So just make sure you do that so you have a nice, smooth experience. Again, I've pointed it out in the instruction. I tried to make it really, really annoyingly obvious.
Yeah, and npm rundev should have installed a Netlify CLI for you. And if I see sh netlify command not found, that's quite some error you can have on Windows, I guess.
Oh, for JAPs, correct. If you're running on Gitpod, step B is not needed at all. You can totally skip all of option B. If you're doing Gitpod, all you need is option A, and then just move on to the next section. Oh, I see. I see that now. Yes, that's kind of confusing, isn't it? I get it. Yes, you do need step B or 1B. So sorry about that. Yes, Japs, to your question, if you ran Gitpod, the only parts that you can skip are what's in this step B clone the repository. It's funny enough, looking at the numbering, I just noticed how confusing that might be. So yes, step 1B and step 1C you still need if you ran Gitpod. It's just the stuff that's here in this step B. Now that I say that out loud, it sounds terrible. Yeah. Yeah, you don't need the clone. Mo, I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to. You don't need to clone the repo in Gitpod. It's already been cloned for you, right?
Yes.
That was part of the pre-setup.
Oh, yes, cool. Thank you, Mo. So we do have a question about Netlify and TypeScript. That it makes sense to put some TypeScript in the function folder. Vanilla.js or.
Let's see. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing that. Oh, that's in
Question coming from Discord. Question.
Discord. Oh yeah.
All about the price.
I don't believe that Netlify will do the transpiling for you, but what you can do is have your functions, in your Webpack config, and just make sure the built product is what you tell Netlify about. It should work just the same. So I think it would require a little bit of configuration on your part. From what I understand, it basically is just going to be kind of ES5 flavor JavaScript. But I have seen people set up Webpack, write their functions with TypeScript or whatever, and then the output folder is what they tell Netlify about, and that's what runs. So it's possible.
Yeah, I see some error here and there, people using Windows. So full disclosure, nobody here is using Windows, so we can have tested the procedure. So if you are not intermediate level in JS, you should go to Gitpod. It's installed for you, and you won't have any issue. It has been tested multiple times.
So Toxic Otaku, where do you run commands in Gitpod? You should, it should be there by default, but there should be a terminal window at the bottom. If not, either toggle the bottom panel, or you can go to terminal, new terminal. But again, you should have a terminal window at the bottom of Gitpod. That's where you can run the commands. Okay, let's see, how are we doing? All right, and don't forget, once you've finished, if you have, you've got time left though. Just give us a thumbs up in Menti, let us know that you have. Oh, Joe Gray, you should now, if you're referring to, let's see, maybe someone answered. Yes, if you're using Gitpod, you do not need to clone the repository.
Yes,
it's been done for you. Yeah.
Yes, but be sure to open Gitpod from your own fork, not the default.
Yeah. Should I go back? Should I go back to the Academy repo and see?
I don't know. We don't have the context. Maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah. So here in the setup your environment step 1, you'll see this option A or option B local. So like I said, I recognize now that I said it out loud how confusing step 1B next to step B may have been. So I apologize for that. But if you're doing Gitpod, just option A, do the things in there. You should not need to clone your repo. We did it for you. And then you can go down to 1B, 1C, and so on.
Yeah. Great.
Okay, it sounds like we're good.
Okay, so, and on Gitpod, David showed you a couple of minutes ago, you do have a window called terminal on if it's not there, you go and create a new terminal window, and then you can type command. See, new terminal. So I think it's, yeah, like Command Shift plus, something like that, and you will have a new terminal open, and you can start typing command there. And as I told you, everything is installed. I mean, NPM,
yeah, you don't have to install npm or anything. It's all there.
yeah. Okay, let's see, pending question over here. No pending question. You guys are focused on the exercise, which is super cool.
And don't worry if you're not going as fast as I am. I've done this a million times. I'm not reading the text. so that's why we give you a little more time.
Yeah, 25 minutes. And once you are set up, with Gitpod and everything, we will keep updating these code and make the app evolve. So this part is really the first tricky part. Okay, let's see, no more question coming. Cool, we will make it. And so we had a question from Japs, again, on top of everything, regarding the command jp url 8888. So when you are using Gitpod, you do have an instance running with its own URL. And if you say gp URL, it will give you the current URL of your repo. And if you add 8888, it will give you the endpoint that will be started when you start listening something on the port 8888. And it's look like 8888 dash the name of your repo, because it will always listen on port 80 for security reason. Okay, let's see. 1B, we do have question on 1B. Let me move back. Configure default remote, yeah. To check out. Okay.
Oh yeah, thank you, Chris, for pointing that out.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So
true.
So I did put it in the instructions, but it's easy to miss. Gitpod does not save by default. So if you made changes, if you wrote the code here in Hello World and then you go to do something and it breaks, you're like, what? It's because it hasn't saved. So one thing you can do is turn on autosave, but just make sure that you're doing a Command S or what's the other one?
Control S to
Control
save
S,
the
yeah,
files.
if you're in Windows,
yes.
To make sure that you are saving, then try it again.
Yeah, so again, folks, on Windows, Windows, maybe the NPM is not able to install Netlify, actually. can guarantee on Mac and Linux it's working. All right, and yeah, the npm install-g Netlify CLI is really the way to install for your local project the Netlify CLI, the one I told you before. That we...
Oh, and Terry Lowry, I swear I'm not trying to call you out, but make sure that for your pull request, you might want to do it again, because you PR'd into the parent repo, which is totally fine. I've made that mistake myself, but again, if you're wondering why Netlify is not doing anything after you did your pull request, it's probably because you tried to pull request into our repo. So I'm gonna go ahead and close that out. I swear I'm not pulling that up as like a wall of shame or anything like that. I was actually curious, so I decided to take a look. How are we doing on those thumbs up? Okay, a little bit less. Yeah, if you're, let's see. You know, I wonder for that for the GitHub error, for those folks on Gitpod or even local, and Chris is asking you to run git remote -v. Make sure that you ran the command here, right? At step 1B, make sure that you ran this command, the git config checkout default remote origin. Yeah, Japs. Yeah, make sure that with that remote, I mean, that looks fine. Yeah, just make sure that you've run, and I'll drop it there. Make sure you've run that.
The git config, just to be sure you are not pointing anymore to the origin, our repo.
That's right.
Try to merge. We'll merge to our own repo, Terry Lowry, and not yours. And this is why, David, show your pull request on our repo, not yours.
Mo, what happens when you try to run the tests? You should have a test down at the bottom. Does the test pass? Correct, Toxic. It's not going to respond or say anything. It's just going to go ahead and set the default remote. So once you've done that, then go back and try to check out your branch and everything and try your command again. You know, I wonder too, for those folks that for some reason, if you're having problems in your code somewhere, here, we'll drop that Menti code for you.
So yeah, it looks like a couple people are getting the undefined, like there's no response from the Lambda.
Yeah.
Is it, I'm assuming they're running in GitHub, but I don't know. Or they're running in Gitpod, excuse me.
Let's see. Yeah, what I was going to suggest, if for some reason you're having an issue with the code itself or whatever. I mean, even though the code that I've seen all of you paste looked fine, actually, I do wonder if there could be something else. I've seen odd characters get in there before. So if you notice at the very top, you'll see this in each of the sections. God, oh no, I put this one at the bottom, funny enough, and the rest of them, it's at the top and the bottom. Now I'm trying to find it. I know it's here because I totally put it there. Here we go. Yeah, so you'll see that there is, and I'll just drop these for you. There are links in here that will actually give you the full source code that you can just copy if something is being funky. So here, let me just drop those for you. And you're gonna see this in each of the sections, right? Each of the sections will have something like this. Now, the key thing too is for those who are having any trouble for some reason with the code, again, I think some of you were seeing if you saved or not. Can you run the test? What happens when you go to run the test as well? Does the test pass? Let's see.
And for people that was not able to push back to GitHub, I'm thinking about, are you signing using the same user credential in Gitpod? Or try to git login just to be sure. Maybe you do have two-factor authentication on GitHub, and as such, you may not be able to log in only by cloning the repo in Gitpod. No.
Yeah, that's it, Paulric. You know, I kind of wonder for those who are getting the can't push back, unable to access, an easy way to tell if you're in the right place in Gitpod, take a look at the tab. Notice that I'm at SonicDMG BattleStacks. If you see DataStax Academy BattleStacks, you may have launched Gitpod from the DataStax Academy repo instead of your own. So just verify that, because you may not have access to push back to our repo, right? So I wonder, I don't know if that's it, but I wonder if that's what some folks are running into. Let's see. One failed and one passed on that one, huh? But there's only one test. There's only one test with this. Yeah, there's only one test here. Mo, are you running this? Because there's only one test there, and the test here is in this Hello World test. That checks that what you have here is passing. And Mo, what'd you end up doing? Or MO? There's two Mo's. Haha. Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, Japs, I'm scratching my head at that one a little bit. I was actually just talking to the team about it, because if it's your own repo, I don't know why you'd be getting that. If you're definitely set to your own.
So the insert game should fail, right? This is expected?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's why we provided the tests that we did to give you, to have you only test Hello World. If you somehow have gone forward, or if you're just familiar with how to use test in NPM, and you did something like, NPM run test functions, you're gonna fail in insert game because we haven't done it yet.
Yeah, because we did not yet implement the insert game. It's coming. My local host is a failure. Use Git mod. Yeah, you should run an attack against 127.0.0.1 just to be sure.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so for those of you who are having a hard time pushing back, that isn't actually, an absolute requirement. I think the key thing right now is, if I just go ahead and get into the review a little bit, is that locally, when you actually run it, right? So you notice here I did my npm run dev after I created, my hello world to be awesome peeps. And then when I go to the endpoint that was generated, right, I see that, okay, I've got this hello awesome peeps. This right here, at least locally, even if you can't push, you know that this is working the way that you would expect. And this is actually your serverless function that's doing its thing. Notice the endpoint here, this .netlify functions hello world. That's using the Netlify library to get access to your hello world serverless endpoint. So if you've gotten to this point and you can't push, then I would say let's just go ahead and move on as far as that goes, because you can we're going to be able to do everything locally anyway. The push part is really getting it up to Netlify and getting it through the CI/CD
the push
pipeline.
is not mandatory. Yeah, true. That's really pushing back to the master and see that Netlify has redeployed your version. So as long as you can run that locally, you're good to go.
Okay. All right, so with that, let me go ahead, and I do see that we had less people who gave us a thumbs up there, so I'm wondering if some people are just running into issues with the GitHub Git part. But we do need to move on, so I want to make sure we get through the material. So again, you can do the stuff in Gitpod or locally without pushing, and you're still going to get to the same endpoint except for the Netlify part. All right, the first thing, again, to make sure, since you came from our repo from a fork, we want to reset. We want to check that default origin, or the default remote, sorry, to push to yours. Then we're going to go ahead and check out to a different branch like my branch. Now we're just implementing Hello World, right? So just something very simple, but remember before we are looking to the functions folder because of what we configured in the Netlify TOML. And then anything in there then is going to be, per that configuration, is going to be set up as a serverless function. The key thing is we use this exports.handler, and now this function will be deployed that way. So it's very simple. Hello world, we're just sending a JSON body to, I said, awesome peeps or whatever.
Yes,
then when we, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm thinking if you run into trouble, not able to reach localhost, maybe this is your firewall, not allowing you to use 888, and you need to go to a firewall to open the port. Or I don't know if you can edit a file to make that running on localhost 80, something like that.
Oh, and Arash has a good point about going to account access control. I take it, Arash, you're talking about in GitHub. Where is that? Are you talking about GitHub? I want to say that, I mean, I guess I'm making an assumption that anybody who created the repo within themselves would already have read-write access, but maybe that's not the case for some reason. Okay, so then once you change the code, then you do an npm run dev that will run the code as we see here. And then later on, somebody was asking the question about this GP URL. So what we're doing is in Gitpod, it's going to automatically generate a URL for you, an endpoint for you. So notice that if I go to my open ports, you see I have 888 is the one where our hello world's going to actually run, right? But how do I access that? How do I get to it, right? That's what that command does. That's what this thing does. This GP URL is going to give you the endpoint. So then I get, oh, okay, there's my endpoint. I can go to that endpoint and I can see there's awesome peeps. And honestly, this should work. We just gave the rest of the instruction just in case it didn't. But if you're local, you just go to localhost 8888. And again, you tack on the endpoint with .netlify functions, and that will run your serverless function. Now, something key here, if you change, like notice I used awesome peeps. Well, if you change that from something other than world, you also need to update your test, right? Because if I were to change this back to world and then run my test, it should fail.
Yes.
Right? It's going to fail because I'm expecting hello expects the JSON responses should be world, but mine is actually awesome peeps, right? So just kind of validating that that is in fact doing what I would expect from that standpoint.
How do we do at the sum up? Looking at the clock here. Now I say, how do we do in the Menti? How many people just are with us
27,
now?
So about half of what we had before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, in next step, we will check out the new branch and you will have everything ready to go for the next step. So don't freak out if you don't complete step 1. This is also the way we organize the source code. It's by branch, and if you don't complete branch 1, you can still check out branch 2 and you're good to go.
Oh yeah, Kvan. Yeah, that's right. That's right. You have to, once you create your forked repo, you want to continue on from your forked repo. That's right. Instead of the DataStax one. That's good.
Yes.
That's exactly it. Yeah, and it's it's unfortunate that because of the forked repo, you get that reference back. So it's just kind of a little clunkiness in the way that Gitpod works, or GitHub, sorry. Okay, so to finish this part up, then once you have, if you're able to do the push and all that kind of deal, we've made some changes to both Hello World and Hello World JS and Hello World Test, potentially, or if you left them defaults, either way, they are different from what was there by default. So we want to go ahead and add those in Git. We're going to merge them back, and then we're going to push my branch, right? We want to push my branch, the one we created, up. At that point, then, and I've already actually done this, but if I go to my branch here in GitHub, I have this pull request. I can click on a pull request. Now, these are equal because I've already done it, but this is the part that I was saying, be very careful. Use your repository, not the DataStax Academy one. And now there's nothing to compare because I've done it, but if not, you would see that. Now, the key thing to kind of point out, I go to this pull request, the one that I finished, is again, remember that we integrated with Netlify when we launched the site from Gitpod or GitHub in Netlify, right? We already did that part. So what's really cool is this whole CI/CD, all the unit tests and things that we already have and everything, they're already being checked, right? They're already being checked. And if you notice in Netlify, if you take a look at your deploys, you'll notice this deploy preview. So when you are issuing a pull request to master, right, you haven't confirmed the merge yet. You're just issuing that first pull request to master. Netlify, as part of the integration, is actually going to automatically go and it's going to deploy it. It's actually going to do a test deploy for you. So when you start seeing all the green check marks and stuff like we have down here, that's saying, hey, I'm passing the unit tests, I'm passing the tests we have. There's no issues. Now go ahead and merge. And then when you actually finish the merge, that's when you get this production. So now I'm merging it into master. That's when it's publishing it to production. And then from there, if I go to my functions, you notice I get this endpoint here, which is the second one that I had. You notice it's also awesome peeps, right? So the same one that I had modified locally, I pushed, is now deployed to production. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and move on. And again, for those of you who had a hard time with the Git part, that's okay. You can keep doing the code locally. We'll be fine. All right, Cédric, it's all you.
All right. So I was answering question. You picked me on guard. All right, let's go for this. Okay, so now we do have our Netlify function, simply said hello world. What we want to do, we want to insert a game. So we will insert the game in a database. And for that, we will use the platform DataStax Astra. Okay, so DataStax Astra is a platform providing managed services, software as a service. At the core of the platform is the NoSQL database Cassandra. This is what I put there as multi-cloud Astra. There you do have Cassandra, and you can deploy Cassandra. AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, this is just some option when you will create your Astra instance, okay? An Astra instance is an instance of Cassandra. On top of this running Cassandra, now Astra provides a lot of tools. So first, SQL console to interact with Cassandra with REPL or CLI. DataStax Studio, which is a tool to create some queries, execute queries against Cassandra, is a notebook way to do so. You can load data with DSBulk. On the ops side, the platform provides a couple of APIs, authentication API, provides some metrics, DevOps API to provide your instances, and a service broker, which is a part of Kubernetes. If you do have your own Kubernetes running, you can ask Astra to provide some pods for you, and it's allow some integration from running Kubernetes to Astra. The last piece is how to expose REST and GraphQL API, because as front-end developer, right, you may not want to contact Cassandra directly. You could. There is JavaScript drivers, and you could have directly connect to Cassandra. But what you want to do, it's pretty cool. You want to interact with a REST API. And so now if you go below, now we introduce you Stargate. So Stargate is the gateway. It's a proxy in front of Cassandra. So this gateway exposes some API. Okay, this is the Stargate that do the magic to transform your API calls to something that Cassandra could understand. And so this is a couple of questions. I don't want to read them. I don't want simply to read, but if you still read down below, just to show the schema, David, we will really see that, okay, now you see that Stargate, it's kind of a proxy. It's generic, so it's open source. That's stargate.io. It has been released today, and this is one of the big reasons of the day today. Stargate is released. It's a gateway on top of Cassandra, exposing multiple API, REST API, GraphQL, document API, and also SQL, and it can be plugged in multiple versions of Cassandra. And you know what? It is now included in Astra. So when you spawn an instance in Astra, previously it was only Cassandra instance, which is already huge. But now when you create an Astra instance, not only you do have the database running, but you do have this proxy, this gateway opening you APIs, REST, GraphQL, document to work with Cassandra. You don't have to bother about data modeling anymore. These stuff really put you some abstraction and easiness to use Cassandra. So now what you will do in the next step is using the GS SDK to interact with the REST API you see here. Okay, so step one, you create an instance in Astra. It will create some Cassandra. It will create Stargate on top of it, export the API. Everything is done for you. Step two, edit your JavaScript code to use the SDK to connect to what has been provided for you. And that's it.
All right.
And I would take question when you do the exercise, of course. But David, back to you. We can move on to another exercise.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so we're moving over now into the step 2, implement a CRUD API in Astra. So again, we'll give you some time here to go through this. Now, in this case, you're gonna first create your Astra instance. So if you don't already have one, this is all free, by the way, so you don't have to worry about a credit card or anything. And then from there, you're just gonna go ahead and hook it up. Now, somebody was already asking the question a moment ago. Let me pull it back up. Which should we use fill in the key space? DataStax. Yeah. So when you get to the point that you're actually filling in the values, I think it's right here. Yes. I'm actually really curious, Awig, where you saw SA index because I thought we put DataStax and DataStax DB like everywhere. So maybe you can help me understand that one. But yes, be sure if you're creating a new database and you do not have an existing Astra database, please use the values we've provided. Matter of fact, I have ad nauseum repeated them over and over and over. Every place that you need them, you're going to see them there, right? They should be, again, the values that we provided. If you have an existing Astra database, I'm going to show you what to do in a moment because I'm going to go ahead and create mine. So again, let me give you some time. All right, we're going to do this as well. So again, once you've completed step 2, then go ahead and give us a thumbs up, and I'll go ahead and do it with you.
Yes, and I think it's important to start with a fresh key space, an empty key space, because in a key space we will put some document, and as far as I know, we need a new key space.
Okay, so let me do this. And again, make sure, and it should be in the instructions as well, but make sure you're choosing the free tier. This is free forever, so you don't need to worry about paying for anything. And I will, in this step where it says configure and create your database, the values that are here, if I'm creating a new database, I'm literally going to pull those right out of here.
I still a question about SA_index. I don't know really where you saw
Yeah,
that.
I'm actually really curious where that's coming from. Correct. Use DataStax. I'm just, honestly, Awig, I'm really kind of confused to where you're actually seeing SA index in this repo anywhere. You know, funny enough, you can post, if you feel so inclined, you can post a screenshot here in Discord. I would love to see what you're seeing. He says right there on my screen.
Okay, let's see.
What the? I love it right there on my screen. Oh wait, let me do it this way. Are we just not seeing it?
Below screenshot of the phone, yeah. Maybe is it inside the screenshot?
Oh, would you look at that? Oh man, look at that, Cédric. Talk about a miss. Wow, that's a funny miss. Yes. Yeah, you know something? Wow, it is right there. You know, I'm gonna fix that right now.
Yes.
Well,
please.
It's not gonna change it on your
but
repos.
They already are forked, but
yes.
yeah,
so
let's change that. So thank
okay,
you.
that's a bug. That's a bug. Yes, you got me. That was a bug. My bad.
Okay.
Good eye. I missed that. I can't tell you how many times I've been over that one.
Yeah.
I missed that.
I mean,
wow.
At some points, just so good point. Good point.
All right, gotcha. You have been, you know, you were totally right and completely vindicated there.
I mean, we should do a bug bounty, you know, with swag and everything.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
So the purpose of
really
the purpose of the credential of us having to put the credentials in each place is that so these are like the secrets for our application, right? So yeah. We put them in Netlify so that when you deploy your code to Netlify, it's going to take those secrets and put them in memory so your functions can run. That way there's, you know, it's never exposed to the outside world. GitHub, they are put there so that when GitHub actions run to run your tests, they're just run in memory in that action in the environment. And it's never, you know, it's never committed in your repository. It's never exposed to anyone publicly. And then locally in your .env file, it's there so that you're able to connect to Astra from your local environment. And you would never commit that to your code, right? You always protect those credentials They're only meant for you. If someone had them, they can get into your database, right? So that's why you kind of have to go through this exercise of putting them in all the places that you need it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Now the good thing is once you've done it once, you're done. You don't have to mess with it anymore.
Yes.
But it is that first step. It's like, why do I have to do this? Like that's.
Yeah, so yeah, but people talk about secret before. So this is how you create secret on Netlify. And for Netlify to know the value of the you also need to define them in Gitpod to
honestly,
to succeed the build.
I feel like for Awig earned some swag for that. So Awig at the very end, when we finish up, we're gonna give you an email to get some swag for the quiz winners. But you just earned yourself some swag for pointing that out, because that was a nice bug. I really appreciate
you win a t-shirt for finding that bug.
Yeah, totally.
Now everybody will be crazy finding all the bugs.
They're gonna be like, oh, hey, I don't, the grammar was wrong in this sentence.
There is a typo. Yeah, you missed a comma over here.
Yeah, so if you want some swag, Awig, like I said, you totally earned some. We'll tell you how to get it at the end. Oh, by the way, so for those of you who currently had a database, right? Now, if you don't mind killing it in the free tier and you want to start new, that's a great way to do it, right? However, if you already had a database, you can just say add key space, right? And if you then go with the key space, right? So BattleStacks. Something to note though, is notice the username, the password, and stuff that we're using. Well, if you add a key space to an existing database, you will need to use their username and password for the existing database, right? I want to be very clear on that. So again, if you can, just zero it out and create a new one just to be clean and everything. But if you can't, that's fine. Add key space, you can totally do it. Yeah, you're right. Everyone's going to be honest about like little things we missed. That's okay. It just makes it that much better. And, we do appreciate that, actually. We try really hard to make sure things are like completely bulletproof, but it's easy to miss some things sometimes. And you can also see why we tell you to, or suggest that you use the values that we give you, because it makes it a lot easier to just pull them.
Yes.
And to the question I saw about US East, whatever region is closest to you, if the European one is closer to you, then use that one.
Okay, so question from Arash, quite important. Please do not use serverless database. It should work, but that's really beta features. It's still a lab. So yeah, please keep the free tier and it will stay. For the serverless, you don't know. We can totally drop your instance tomorrow because we need it. That's just a lab. But you can see what's coming, right? Now in Astra, on the free tier, you start Cassandra instance. Okay, 5 GB, free tier, no credit card, pretty cool. What's coming is very serverless, pay as you go. You know, more throughput, more capacity, boom, and the database will scale out for you. James Skin, speaking about t-shirts. Oh, funny.
Oh, what did I miss?
No, we got a question about serverless. Okay, got it. And now maybe a typo here and there.
Oh, we're getting folks asking for t-shirts, aren't we? That's all right. You know something? If you help us improve the thing, improve the work, and make it much easier to understand and all that, that's wonderful. That's worth something.
Yeah, I think we do have about 1 hour to go.
Yeah.
Are we good on timing? I think we are. Chris and Eric are on top of the question.
Cool, wonderful. And again, if at any point, once you get done with the insert game code, if your test isn't passing or something, don't forget in the top and bottom, you see these little code sections. You can either click on the image or you can go to the links. There's the raw version and such. So you can use that to compare and kind of take a look at, hey, what might I be missing? Or something like that, you know, is there a typo? So we did provide that to you so you could have a quick way to just implement it if you need to.
Yes, so we do have new question coming through the C event tools, which is cool. So let's pick some. So first is, what is serverless plan on Astra? So I explained that already. So that's a new kind of DB that we scale out if you need more capacity or more throughput. But you know, it's a lab, but that's the future. So for today, keep using everything. Yep.
I was going to say also, it's completely, like the way you pay for it's different. It's completely metered, so it can be pretty cheap.
True. Second is about SQL. So we used to use the drivers and Cassandra query language to interact with the database. You can still do it. Remember the Stargate diagram that also exposed the SQL API? That simply means now Stargate is in between you and Cassandra to handle everything you do. So you do have the API, REST GraphQL, but you still have the SQL if you need to.
Yes, Stargate is actually a Cassandra node itself. It's just one without storage attached. So basically, you are connecting to Astra the same way before. It's just the node you're talking to is basically just a coordinator node instead of a...
And it's open source. You should have a look at stargate.io and you will see how it works. You make that works on your laptop. And yes, it's working with Cassandra OSS 3.x, 4.x, and also DSC instance 6.8.x. I saw some Kubernetes icon. Yes, so under the hood on Astra, everything runs on Kubernetes. Again, a lot of part is open source. So this time go to kate8sandra.io. Let me put the link in Discord. So stargate.io and katesandra.io. So all these new features has been developed by the DataStax engineer team this year. So shout out to them. So not only the Astra platform, but all these Stargate.io, katesandra.io that are now on open source.
Just something to point out. So Vivpask figured out the solution to those who were having an issue with the 403 push on Git. So I've pinned it. I've pinned the answer. So it looks like it was specifically related to permissions for the repo, for the repo. So if you had that trouble, go take a look at the pin in Discord to get the answer. Hopefully it's the answer for you. I'd love to know if more of you run across that.
That's cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for digging in and figuring that one out. It's hard to do it when we're doing this. One other thing I'd like to point out, if you're at the point where you're running your test and your insert game fails and it is longer, if the test is failing longer than 10 seconds, just rerun it. We need to include or increase that to probably 20 seconds or something. There are a couple cases on the first run through that it might take longer than 10 seconds and it'll fail it. So just run it again. Oh. No thumbs up yet. Do you have any thumbs up here on our, oh, maybe no one's done. Okay.
Oh, very good question from Brandon Latfried, which is at intermediate up to advanced user, I guess. So we are using Netlify and Netlify serverless function, but you could do the same with Vercel and Make.js. Yes, because to interact with Stargate, we will simply use a SDK. So you will define this dependency in your JS project, define the proper variables, and you're good to go either on Vercel, which, as far as I know, Vercel also allow you to run some exploit code and do your own API, whereas Netlify is
yeah, we actually have an example with Astra and Vercel and GraphQL in our sample app gallery in Astra. When you're in Astra, there's a sample app gallery. I think it's one of the first ones. So that would be a good reference. That's using GraphQL, but you could use the collections API or REST API like we're doing today if you wanted to.
Cool.
Yeah, there's no thumbs up on that. Why is there no thumbs up here?
Yeah, I cannot put one. I'm in front of the Menti now, and
I see that.
What are you doing, David? You broke Mentimeter.
Yeah, I know. I broke it, huh? Boop. There.
I cannot sum up anymore.
They're solved. If you're done now, you can thumbs up.
Yeah, now I can vote. Thank you, Magic Crafter.
That's funny. Yeah, no, it's working now, Magic Crafter. That was an oops. We must have missed putting the thumbs up in that one.
Okay,
refresh, just refresh. The code for Menti is, I'll put it up on the screen there. You should see it at the top of the screen.
9902077. Let me answer you.
Yeah,
you know, so fast, Fosk. I am not.
Once you're done with this one time of doing the copy paste, that's it. You never have to do it again. You know, if you realize what's actually happening with that, it kind of makes sense why you have to do it. When you are setting up the .env var, that is for your local IDE environment and for your local code, right? And then when you do it in GitHub Secrets, well, that's for the CI/CD actions. So then at that point, as it's running through its tests, it also needs those values to be able to connect up to your database. And then when you go into Netlify, it also needs those values because then when you deploy your production app and your serverless functions, it also needs the authentication and credential values for your database. That's why you have to do the environment variables in all three places. It is admittedly a little bit annoying, but you do it once and you're done. So hopefully you don't feel like too much of your life was stolen at that point.
People are joking on Discord. That's just funny.
Yeah. Oh, what am I missing here?
Oh no. Copy paste is a long job.
Yeah, that's what I was just talking about.
You know, as a developer, you know, copy pasting is probably the most useful skill.
You mean from Google, right? It's copy paste code from Google. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Stack Overflow. You know, you can go straight.
Now, by the way, at this point, notice that we're not pushing back or doing anything like that. If you get to your tests and they run and they pass, you're good.
You know what? I can probably put the Menti code is the main chat description. You know, everybody who wants to copy paste. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, are you doing that in the Discord channel?
Yes, I can. So Menti, boom. Now it's on top. And by the way, you can see also a form in how to subscribe to all the events we are doing. We are running this kind of session multiple times.
My life was incomplete without that.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, James, do you have any idea how many times I've cut and paste those same variables? That's great. I think between all of us on the team, I don't even want to try to estimate that.
I mean, but if you look at the Astra UI now, and if you go to how to use the GS and everything,
Yes.
the UI itself has been changed to simplify the copy-paste part.
Yeah, so
we don't use exactly that today because they are the export keyword there. You find easier to simply copy-paste the values, but here, we do have screens to simplify everything that you are doing to use the API.
Yeah, a new capability, what Cédric's talking about, a new capability that literally just came out in Astra. If you go to the Connect tab, in all the different languages, this is actually awesome. I'm really excited about this. It just wasn't something that we could use for today. But if you take a look at the different APIs that you can use other than the variables that you need, it literally walks you through and generates it for your own instance, which is really cool, right? And if you have different code, different languages that you're using, it'll show you how do you implement this in all of them. And again, it's going to use the values that you have from your own database. It's really cool. So it's worth getting in there and taking a look at it. Again, we're just not using it for now. We're using the value here and here, and the rest we gave you. But now that this is available in the future, we can hopefully make that a little easier. All right. And again, now that we have finally give you that thumbs up, let us know.
Okay, that's me sending you some love. Okay, click. Okay, so okay, maybe during the remaining time you can start building the stuff and show to people.
Yeah, let's see. I'm just looking at Toxic Otaku's error output there. Stupid question, Toxic. Did you save? And that test functions is interesting. Are you running npm run test functions? Is that what's coming out? I wonder if he's just, yeah, you are. You're just showing us the output partially. Okay, I see. All right, looks like Chris is going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so with this, let's just go ahead and quickly go over what we did. So here we created our Astra database, right? It should have only taken a minute or two, if that, to create the database. And hopefully, again, make it easy on yourself and use the values that we've given you. Once we have that, somebody was just asking a moment ago, where is this env.example? That should just be in the root, right? That should have already existed right here at the DataStax repo. So I should see an env example is just there. And that's how we're able to cat that into our env. Then we fill out the values, matching what our database credentials and values are, and rinse and repeat ad nauseum, right, for the GitHub secrets. So if I go to settings, secrets, and then just add these, it's just, one-to-one. So it's not hard. It's just, it's just going through it. And then in Netlify, going to our site settings. And again, once you do this for your site, it's done. You don't have to do it ever again, right? Build and deploy, and to environment, and then adding those so it should look like something like this as well. And then for the code. So if we take a look at the code, we go to insert game. Now we're really doing two main things here, right? We're hooking up part of the REST endpoint in Netlify to our serverless function, insert game. And then we are also bringing in the connection to Astra, right? So think about this, though. This isn't a lot of code. This is not a lot of code at all. But with these two code blocks on their own, we're essentially going to hook up what we're doing for both our serverless function and then the Astra piece, right? This alone right here, this configuration, this piece of configuration between essentially setting these variables to talk to our environment variables, the one we set in our .env file, right, are used then when we create our games collection. What's really cool about this is for anyone who's ever done anything with Cassandra before, you might be asking, where's the schema, right? Don't I have to create a data model? And no, when you use the collection library, you don't. It's a document API. It stores it in, it's all JSON based and stuff. You don't need a schema. This is actually schemaless storage in Cassandra, right? So it makes it uber simple because I don't have to worry about defining any of that. I literally just have to tell the thing, how do I talk to my database, and then go. And then you'll see here, the key thing is when we're using that games collection, we're going to say, this is now where we've generated at this point our game ID, right? And then the payload. We're going to go ahead and create those inside of our games collection. And then obviously adding in, just some, whether it's error handling or, just some codes to come back if things worked well or if something went wrong. And then the tests are going to go through things like, hey, you shouldn't be able to create a game without a game ID, right? That's what we're doing with the tests. So we're testing that out, and ensuring that the status code is what we expect as well. And then hopefully, if all that worked out, then you have your tests, those two tests that would run, and you get a nice pass. Like I said, if you did run the first time and you may have seen something that looked like this, right, and it failed that first time, it's just because if you take a look, the timeout is set to 10 seconds, and there are some cases in the first iteration it might take a little longer. That's something we need to modify and make that a little bit more robust on our end. And that's it. At that point, now we've hooked up both our insert game serverless function with Netlify and the Astra database portion. Okay, all right, with that, why don't we go ahead and how are we doing our thumbs up? Okay, we got a couple more. Let's go ahead and move on to the next section. Now, the good thing about this is that, if for some reason, if you feel like you don't have enough time in the individual sections, you can just go to the code, right? We have provided the code in each section, or this is all also built to be self-service, right? You can come and watch things later if you want and take a little bit more time to get things working. But with that, I will give it to Cédric to go over, Chris, to go over the Redux and React part.
Let's go.
All right. Here we go. So what we've done so far is build up our kind of data layer for our application here. So we haven't actually gotten to the client yet. So now we're going to get to the client. We've been building this from the bottom up. So we started with the REST API, then we put the database behind it, and now we're going to put something in that's going to talk to the REST API and work with the client. And what we want to do is we're going to start with Redux and React. So we're using React to render our UI, and we're using Redux to manage state. So if you haven't used React before, it's basically a JavaScript library that's used to render views. You give React something called JSX, which looks similar to HTML, but it has other special rules, and it parses it and renders it on the screen. Now, why this is useful is and why it's called React is that it's built to react to data. So basically, if I have underlying data changes and my components can know about it, then it will redraw that part of the screen, and it will redraw it very quickly. So for example, if I'm on a user profile screen and I change someone's name, I can update just the name on the rest of the screen without having to reload the full page. It's a small example of why it's useful. And okay, I think that's a good overview of React. Redux is a JavaScript state management library, and it's distinct from React. Now they work well together, but it is distinct. You can use it in any JavaScript project that you like. And it's based on a design pattern called Flux that came out of Facebook, and they have their own implementation. I think it's called Flux. Redux is a little bit simpler with a little less rules, but essentially the design pattern is very simple. You have a global state object, and you're only able to write to that object in one direction. So you create functions called actions, which then call a special function called a reducer. And that reducer is what actually updates the store. The store in this case is what holds the state. It's basically a big JavaScript object. And then when that updates, it will publish an event, and your UI or other components in your application can just listen for that change and pick up the change and go with it. So it's a way to centralize your application state and have a auditable kind of change log of how state is changing, and so that it can be shared between components pretty safely. That's an overview of Redux. And then they work together. There's a little diagram here. So the way they work together is, as I said before, when you have React and it's redrawing portions of the screen or components that have data that changed, right? So what you do is you bind Redux and React together to say, hey, React, please pay attention to this part of state. And when it changes, I want you to render some part of the component. And then in turn, React can have special, it can dispatch actions to state. So there's basically this big circle here, which is shown in this diagram of user interactions that are broadcasting events to a global store, and then other parts of the UI or other components are listening for those changes to redraw. And that's kind of it in a nutshell. And yeah, there's some more detail here that I think is useful to understand about why this is useful. If you're a React developer who've worked with it in the past, I mean, there is such thing as local component state. I mean, you will draw boundaries, meaning that you're not necessarily going to put every piece of state in Redux. Some people do, but it's a bit much. Like it is sensible to have local component state in many cases. Where Redux really is great is when you have something like we're doing today, where we have basically a game loop and a game state that we need the whole application to know about. And also it's really useful for once you get past one or two developers. State management can be very tricky in larger, more complex applications. That's really where it shines.
Yeah, for anyone who's ever, built traditional web pages, back in the day, right? The idea that you can update individual components with only the information they need with React, right, as compared to having to re-render the whole page or something, is just a complete game changer from that standpoint. I think the React Redux combination really allows what we've seen now, right? I mean, it's been around for a little bit already. We've seen plenty of applications that have come out that allow like really dynamic and more optimized, websites that aren't so clunky, if you will. I feel like it's a huge improvement over what we used to have to do. Yeah, and then what you'll find is when...
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Right. So what we want to talk about is how we're going to work with this with the UI we're going to make. We're basically going to have a button that creates the game ID that other clients can use to connect. And so you have the UI component, which is the screen that the screenshot is here, which is a button and a way to display the game ID. And then behind that, we have the Redux store, which contains the game ID and writes it to Astra so that other game clients can connect and use it. All right.
Okay. All right. Give me just a moment. Let's see. All right. So with that, again, if you want to get into more information on any of this, we've provided some links for you and some resources that you can use to dig a little bit more into React and Redux. With that, we will get into creating our client state with Redux, right? So we're going to create the state that we're going to use to pass around our app. So like when you click the create game button, right? That state is being stored that then gets pushed down to our clients for them to display. So we want to go ahead.
I said, yep.
Yeah. So we want to, we're going to start there, and then we have something to push to our clients. So with that, let's go ahead and give you all some time to go into the next section. Let me bring it up.
And I can talk a little bit as they start. And it is important to know we're actually using Redux Toolkit in this step. It's still Redux. It just simplifies things greatly. If you've used Redux before, you'll know there's a ton of boilerplate. It's can be very cumbersome. So Redux Toolkit kind of simplifies that stuff for you. So it looks a little bit magical. But that's okay. If you have questions about it, please ask. The reason it looks a little bit magical is because of the boilerplate that's going away. But the way to think about it is, in the most simple terms, is you're building up a JavaScript object that's going to be under management. And then that under management by Redux, and then changes to that are going to then flow through into your React UI.
All right, wonderful. Okay, so let's go ahead and start this next section. So we are in step 3, right? The create client state with Redux, right? So we've already handled all of our data layer, the database piece, and the fact, and how our serverless function, all the plumbing there has been handled. So now we're going to go ahead and create our client state. We'll give you 15 minutes for this one.
David, with such great feedback, I think we need to stay on Lumi for a while now.
Why is Lumi working for us?
Yeah, we need to be on using Lumi.
Should we show them what we learned about Lumi earlier today?
So you can
Watch how good Lumi. Watch. I go. Bleh. It totally does it. Who would have thought that would have been implemented? That's awesome. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, now it's recorded. It will be there forever.
Yeah, right. Now it's there forever.
Let me see the Menti. Yes, I can vote. And I will sum up because I did the exercise yesterday. So I'm allowed to do it. Oops, we do have Magic Crafter pull request, the original repo.
Uh-oh.
It's not uh-oh, that's what's happened.
Oh, is it? Oh, wait, is it a fix for one of our mistakes?
Probably. Yeah, so we do have 3 pull requests.
Oh, are they pull requests that are pointing out things that?
No, I think it's hello world, my branch.
Oh, okay.
Master.
No worries.
Okay, nothing special.
Oh. Spaces are tabs. Spaces are tabs. Spaces are tabs.
Tabs, no, spaces.
I'm totally a tab person. I am totally with you. M4 RI4, I'm totally with you. You were correct. And VI is the best editor, let's be clear.
I don't know. It's not Slack. I cannot do a poll. Okay, let's do that.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Oh, good. We've got more thumbs up. Yep.
All right. Now we can start a race on Discord.
Oh, that's great. Oh wait. Oh no. Ah,
oh, no.
I took it away. I did that. I clicked on it, and because I created it, it had
okay.
removed it.
So
Yeah, my bad.
See.
I put it back.
No. VI without any plugins. Yeah, the real, yeah.
I knew I worked in Northrop Grumman for a time, and I'll never forget my one coworker, Sid. He was totally old hat. Well, all of the rest of us were all using IDEs and using all the nice functionality that comes with them. And this was in the early 2000s. Oh no, this was actually mid 2000s for a while. That dude, I've never seen anyone code Java faster in nothing but VI. He didn't use any IDEs, didn't believe in them, but he also tended to have a lot of the libraries memorized. So the guy would, it was amazing. He would just, you just hear him going. And he.
No. I
Yeah,
think
he
you
was
cannot
funny.
beat VI if you know all the commands. Boom.
Yeah, I know. It's really good.
Those guys like to compete with Emacs, I guess. But I would vote for VI. Oh, another war. Let me put VI versus Emacs.
Okay.
Okay, let's see on 7th if we miss any question. No, we good. And all are answered question now. There, cool.
Okay. All right, good. I'm seeing some more thumbs up come in. Excellent. More of you getting through it. Great. Oops. All right, so I saw another one come in. This should be a little bit quicker section.
Yeah, because now everything is wired. That's really adding stuff to the UI to connect and Redux to handle the state. So that should be simply GS now.
Here's a question for you. Anyone in the Discord chat who is working on it not done, right? I feel like we've hovered. Oh, there's another one popped. I was gonna say we were hovering there for a minute. I wanted to see if we could gain some time. So I want to make sure that we end on time.
Yeah.
That's kind of key. Yeah, if anyone is not done, let me know. Otherwise, I think we can just move forward and gain a little time back.
So let's see. Checking Discord.
Eddie B, where? Let's see. Okay. Well, that's good. Good to know.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to know which point. There was.
Yeah, we'd like to know at what point you got lost.
Yeah, this is a lot of text to go through and read step by step.
It is. Yeah.
And yeah, you really need to read the step.
No, no worries. No worries.
No, you should not be wary.
I totally get that, Panger. And not only that, I mean, you know, you can always interface with us as well. Let's see. Well, yeah. So Dede, when you first do the merge, the PR back to master, before you have confirmed the merge, you actually, all the tests automatically run in Netlify through the CI/CD pipeline. So that is the way to avoid deploy to production. So if the tests fail at that point, you don't confirm the merge and actually merge it into master, and thereby you're not actually pushing to production. So when you see, let me go back to Netlify real quick. And this is actually one of the cool pieces of functionality that's just there, right? You just get that. So if you go back to your deploys, notice there's a deploy preview and then production. So every time we do our PR, the first check in the PR that you see when I issue it, that's the preview. That does not go to production. Then if it all works out, and then I say confirm merge, that will in fact go to production. So that's how you prevent from deploying to production. You do that preview first. Yeah, that's another way. And what Chris is saying is another way as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Japs, the Netlify is identifying the tests by unit tests and such that have actually been set into the application. We've built up a lot more in the application than what you're working with right now. You know, so there's actually more. Chris, I want to say, I'm not remembering off the top of my head where the configuration for that is, but I believe that you configure that.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure. They have a whole list of actions that they add to your repo, and I'm not actually sure what all those do, to be honest. I usually just set up my own branch rules for merging, but they do a number of things. They definitely test your build, like just make sure it builds properly, but I don't know that it actually executes your unit tests. I could be wrong now.
All right, so why don't we go ahead and do this? We're going to move forward. And the cool thing in this one is, well, we just go right into the next code section. I'm going to totally cheat with all of you in the next section here because we do need to ensure that we end on time. And we have a fun quiz with swag to get to here at the end,
yeah.
Right? So we want to make sure that we don't miss any of that piece. But if we just take a look at what we're doing here in the code, you know, this is essentially setting up all that game state, right? We're setting up all the game state and reducers. So, you know, reducers are really going to be.
Yeah, I can talk through this.
Go ahead,
I know we're short on time. So the work that we did in the exercise, we just added a simple reducer and 3 simple reducers, right? We need to set the game ID, which again, a reducer just, all it does is update that JavaScript object, that initial state object that we set above, right? So we add a reducer that writes the game ID so that we're able to update that. And then we wrote a reducer that handles an error message from when we actually create the game in Astra through Netlify. And then we have a reducer that tracks a loading state so that when you're creating the game, we're able to know that that's happening. And these reducers are very compact. This is part of Redux toolkit. That's why it's just basically we're saying, look, current state.id equals action.payload, which you'll see when you call a function, when we look through the asynchronous action below, you'll see that happen a lot. So that's basically that part. And we should probably just go straight to the asynchronous action, because
down here. Yep.
Yeah, it's the most complex part, right? So what this action does is it actually is going to make a call to our Netlify function and create a game. So this is why this one is a little bit complex, right? So we're basically calling dispatch, which is dispatching a reducer, right? The reducers that we defined above, and we're doing that to change state, right? So when I enter this function, right away I change state 3 times, right? I'm saying, look, we're going to start loading. So what it means is that we're about to make a network request, and then I set another action of I'm just going to clear out any error that might be there, and I'm also going to reset the game ID. So we've already updated the state 3 times so far in this function. And then we go into a try catch block to make our network request. We generate a random game ID. So that just gives you those 4 random characters. And then we actually make our request to our Netlify function, the insert game function that we wrote in the last step. And we do that with just the fetch library, which comes in every browser, and we pass it the game ID and what state we want the game to be in. And then if there's an error, if it doesn't come back with an okay response, then we throw an error, and we can update that with at the bottom there where we catch all of our errors, and we say we're going to send an error message. So once we get that back, we read the response and we set the game ID to what came back to us in the response. And then as we get out of this function, we set loading to false at the very end. So we've gone through the entire network request cycle, hitting our REST function, hitting our REST API Netlify, wrote to Astra, it came back, and during that time, state was updated multiple times. And this is the core part of this. And when we go to the UI part in the next step, you'll see how we're making the UI react to these changes that are happening right here.
Right. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cheat. Okay, so I'm totally cheating. So what I'm going to do, funny enough, I'm going to use our own raw capability to bring it in. So at this point, like you mentioned, when we go to source pages, new game, and I do encourage all of you to go off and do this on your own, right? That's kind of the fun of it, to see it, especially when you start making changes here in the view, right? Because then you really start to see those changes come into play. So at this point, though, if you've gotten to where all the tests are running, you know you're pretty good, right? That's actually one of the reasons why we have the test to begin with. So I'm going to grab this. I'm going to cheat. And
cheater.
I'm cheating. Right. But here's what we're doing, right? So a couple things. If you notice the default here, where by default, we're just showing these dashes when there's nothing, but now we're putting in some OR logic to all. Also passing the ID if anything. Oh, that's funny. I don't know if you
Yes, you're back. Where you were just.
Oh, good. It freaked out for a second. Okay, yes. I thought I saw something. Yeah.
You're back.
Okay, so like I said, I just cheated because I just literally copied the code over. But that's it. I mean, we're now taking, as Chris said, we're taking the state that we're going to get from Redux, and we're hooking it back up to what's going to happen in the view. Let's see if my test runs. Hopefully that is good, because really what's going to be fun is the end part. So my test is good, right? So now I have some changes here. That's right. We've been editing these files. So now I'm going to go ahead and push back. I'm going to kick this off, and then we're going to get into the quiz because we have a swag quiz. And then that way, by the time we're done with that, then we will be able to see the final finished product. And if you're actually able to follow along with me while I'm doing this right now, you're like really fast, because I'd be amazed. Okay, so now I'm going to pull this stuff in again. I'm changing away from the parent repository. Let's not do that. We want to insert. We're going to merge all this stuff back.
Okay.
All right, now it's going to run through its checks, right? So I'm going to let it do that for a moment. And then we're going to come over and have some quiz fun.
Oh, yeah. And like that, you let Netlify build that stuff and do the quiz in the same time. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
Good idea. Good idea.
Thanks.
So let's Netlify do a thing. Come back and see that it's now working.
All right. So take a look at your phones. And
go back to Menti. Just wait for everybody to join. So we do have 40 people. So it's now time to win swag. So go back to Menti. Use 9902077. Let me put it back on Discord just to be sure. It should be okay by now. But 02077. So 5 questions. The fastest you go, the more points you have. Please look at your phone, because there is quite a delay between the moment we hit that and the moment it's live. Oh, so we do have so much lag. So we work as we expect. Let's hope.
Okay. All right. You ready? Let's do it. Oh yeah, I see the numbers going up. We have folks there. All right. First one here. Again, look at your phones. What is Astra?
So yeah, thinking with the 20-second delay, we probably need to, we will be not in sync with the quiz and the way to answer the question. Like now, people are simply showing us starting the quiz. But hey, look at your phone. Everything is on the phone.
That's right. It is Cassandra as a service in the cloud. It is not a gateway to the stars, but it could be. You never know. All right, let's see what our leaderboard looks like. Oh, hey, we know that name, Skivvis. Hello, Skivvis 2000. And actually, Skivvis 2000 is somebody we've known, has been to one of our workshops before. Fastest time. So far, Skivvis is in the lead. All right, let's see. And it's going to be the top 3 winners get swag. All right, question 2. What is Stargate? Now this one we kind of were tricky, but nobody went for it. But you're right, it's a gateway providing multiple data access interfaces. It's also a TV show, and you could have gotten it right that way.
It's also a movie.
That's true, that's true. All right, let's see what our leaderboard looks like. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, I think Agent X9 was pretty fast.
Oh, wow, that changed real quick.
No, NGB was the fastest. Okay.
Wow, okay, so NGB is #1. Kvan, hi there, Kvan, and I say DD as well. This is anyone's game with these.
Question number 3.
All right, what doesn't Netlify do for you?
Doesn't.
Don't mind me.
Everyone will be okay with this one.
Yeah. That's right. It doesn't get coffee for the office, unfortunately. It does everything else, though. So, yes, it does have CI/CD capabilities, CI/CD capabilities, serverless functions, and CDN. All right. What does our leaderboard look like now? Dun, dun, dun. Oh, wow. So Kvan bumped out NGB. Jules takes the lead. And James, hey, James Curl, I see you there in Data. Okay, again, could be anyone's game.
The guy who helped us
Yeah.
debugging it.
Yeah, we appreciate that. All right, React is.
Okay. All right. 10 seconds.
Nobody went for something you do when a ball's thrown at you. Yeah. Yes, it's a JS library for building user interfaces. Good. I'm glad we got some folks on that one. That was maybe a little tricky one there.
No, not API.
All right, let's see what happened to our leaderboard. Thanks, James.
Yeah, I think NGB. Oh, yeah, NGB. Yeah.
Oh, NGB takes the lead back.
Yeah, I
Kvan.
expected that. I see how fast he was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kvan and number 2 in Data. Number 3, James, you're right there. All right, last one, everybody. This is for everything.
Japs made it to the top 10.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, let's see what happens. Redux manages. I'm laughing at James.
Pretty good.
That's right. Redux manages state containers for JavaScript apps.
Very good score, you know?
Yeah. All right, let's see what happened.
Doing it well.
Here it's for everything. Ooh. Well, what's gonna happen? Oh, wow! Whoa!
Oh, what a change! Whoa, did it? Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Data Richard Cook and Rob Pasco just like came out of nowhere.
Good job. Congratulations.
Wonderful. So Data Richard and Rob, go ahead and send an email to jack.fryer@datastax.com. We'll actually show that here in a moment. We'll drop it there.
I'm doing on Discord now.
You're dropping in the Discord. Excellent. Thank you so much. So yeah, send an email to Jack Fryer. Let him know you were one of the top 3 winners from today's quiz, and you will get some swag. There it is. And here, this is for you. To be frank, be honest. You know, what should we improve for future workshops? Was there anything difficult about this workshop? Right, we're always looking for ways to improve our material and evolve. Well, thank you.
Yeah, good feedback. Thank you.
Yeah. Given more time to give answers is totally true.
Yes. So we speed up in the end, but see, we're really on time. So
that's a really good point. Show the GitHub to get code to run before the first workshop. That's a good point.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not. You know, this isn't going to be the last time we do this or anything like that. We're gonna, and we have, as Cédric mentioned before. We have a ton of workshops out there. So, you know, if you look at the DataStax Academy repo, you'll actually see a bunch more. Focus on less, more in depth.
Yeah, so, but, you know, everything that you run today would be available, you know, Netlify, Astra, they are all free. The content won't go anywhere, and you can redo the workshop at your pace when you want.
Yes.
And we are also on Discord all the time. So if you come back, ask us. I think we do have almost 7K people on the Discord now, almost as much as on the YouTube channel. So yeah, go there, ask your question. We are there. It's not ending with the workshop in it.
Yeah, and to that, you know, to the point about self-service, this is designed to be completely self-service. All the tools you just used, right, they're all going to persist, right? They're all free for the free tiers and everything. You know, you're not, after we're done here today, that doesn't have to be the end of it, right? Now, let's see. So if you remember, I cheated. I copied the code real fast, right? And then I went and deployed it. So this is at the end. I see I have a production deployment. So here is where the rubber meets the road, right? If I did this right, if this works, then when I go here to run my app and say start new game,
Okay.
What happens? Oh, I have a code, NEPX, right? Now this, by the way, everything I'm doing is also in the instructions. It's just that I'm kind of popping through it. So now if I go to my database,
so let's see.
Go to the console, and down at the bottom here, right there, we give you the CQL that you need. So let's take a look. If I run that, what was my code? NEPX?
Yes, it is.
NEPX. And if I start another game, right? SEPW, then if I run this again.
We are hitting the insert game Netlify function that use the Astra SDK, that use the API that creates something.
Yeah, so this has been deployed to production, right? This is available on a global CDN through Netlify. It's actually talking to our data layer with a document API with just a couple lines of code. All right, this is the whole thing is all hooked up. It's actually a real app that's been pushed out. So it seems really simple when you're just pushing it back to GitHub and using its capability to, CI/CD to do that. But it's really seriously powerful, and it gives you the ability from the front end. We didn't write any backend code. We didn't have to touch any servers, right? We literally just wrote front end JavaScript code, and now you have an app. So that's
And yeah, you totally understand that now everything is wired. Each time you add a new function, you commit, bam, and it's building and everything pretty easily and pretty fast for you.
Alrighty, so as we close out, thank you everyone. Again, the last thing, we did post it there. Thank you for the feedback. We really appreciate that. Again, if you got swag, go to jackfire@datastax.com. Thank you so much. And before we leave, just a moment, because Denise has some words from you, and then that'll be it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Wow, what a jam-packed day. Congratulations, and thank you for being here with me through all of this until the very end. I really hope that you enjoyed learning from Henrik and Charity and their experiences in building document databases over the past decade. Learning from Matt and his vision for the future of data in the Jamstack was incredible to get to hear. And seeing Anya's demo showing us how to build a serverless version of TikTok was pretty cool. I hope you had a lot of fun as well, building your own version of a Cards Against Humanity-like game when you were building with DataStax. So altogether, there was a bunch of things to be taken away from today. So I've got a few more housekeeping items for you. If you want access to these videos on demand, bookmark the registration page for how you got into this event, and we'll be posting the videos up there. And if you want to join our community and build Stargate with us, head on over to stargate.io, and there you'll find a link to join our Discord server, join the conversation, share your sample apps, find out about the latest things that we're building, and that's absolutely the best way to keep in touch with us. So that's a wrap for the day. Stay connected.
Been through a couple of shipwrecks, so glad it's over with my ex. But we stay afloat 'cause you're my index. Seeing clearly now, don't need Windex. Zooming in once and forward, and I don't need the context. I know less is more when you keep my data in check.